Chapter 1002, an incredible event. The contents of the story soon attracted everyone's attention in the tea house. The title was too captivating. Someone even looked for the boss to ask if he had any important news from Beijing. The boss smiled without saying anything. He only said, "Won't you know when you come to listen in 2 days? Then tell us more about the story." The boss shook his head and ran away when no one was paying attention. This matter was quickly spread. After all, what happened in the capital was the bellwether of the entire Dajin dynasty. Everyone was especially interested in what happened in the capital. Now, they actually said that everyone in the capital was frightened. What about them? Wouldn't they have to be scared to death? Dai Wenhua came back after asking around outside and said excitedly, "Many people are talking about this on the streets now. Miss Gu is indeed amazing to give it such a title." Gu Yundong chuckled. Actually, this was not her title at all. What she had originally written was, "Shocking. The emperor actually did such a thing. Go to." Coit was unbelievable. Why would the prince make such a life-and-death decision? This looked like a royal secret. It was more eye-catching, right? However, when the prefecture magistrate saw this, he almost shook his head off and refused to use this. He said that this was a great disrespect to the emperor. If he made a mistake later, he would be investigated and punished. Gu Yundong had no choice but to settle for second best and take another one. Although the effect seemed to be all right, she still felt a little regretful. As for why the storyteller had to wait 6 days before he started, it was naturally to leave enough time for Shao Qingyuan and the others to make other preparations. Of course, it could also let the matter continue to ferment. Since there were no more problems about the storytelling in the tea house, the prefecture magistrate began to gather the doctors in the prefectural city. It was definitely impossible for Shao Qingyuan to inoculate the citizens of the entire Xuanhe prefecture with cowpox vaccination. He had to tell the doctors how to operate first, and everyone had to work together. However, as Shao Qingyuan had said, no matter if it was a doctor or a commoner, they had to be sought after. In order to avoid unnecessary doubts and trouble, the prefecture magistrate released a piece of news. There was finally a solution to a certain incurable disease. The Imperial physicians of the Imperial hospital planned to choose a portion of talented doctors and teach them this method. If there were any doctors who were interested, they could report to the prefectural city's government office in the near future. The government office would choose 10 suitable people. Yes, there were only 10 spots. First come, first served. As soon as this news came out, the doctors from the various medical centers in the prefecture capital were the first to report to the government office. The prefecture magistrate registered all the names. However, he was also afraid that all the doctors would come and cause the medical centers in the city to be empty. The patients would not be able to seek a doctor, so he limited the conditions. For example, there could only be 2 people participating from each clinic. This restriction made these doctors even more tempted and eager. 6 days later, the doctors had already gathered. Even many doctors from the various county cities below had arrived. The prefecture magistrate tidied up a few courtyards and rooms behind the government office and let everyone stay there. Shao Qingyuan officially began his lesson. At the same time, the storyteller of the fortune tea house suddenly slammed the wood and the gong and drum behind the screens sounded heavily. Then they began to talk. As we know, something big happened in the capital some time ago. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1003. This person is handsome and cool. The fortune tea house was filled with people. The private rooms upstairs were all full, and the lobby downstairs was filled with people sitting or standing. Even the windowsill at the door was filled with people. Everyone was listening to the story. It was really because the publicity this time was especially awesome. It was not only because of the shocking title, but also because Prefecture Magistrate Dai had gotten someone to secretly promote it. Hence, Fortune Tea House had an unprecedented number of customers today. The storyteller was inexplicably a little nervous, but he was experienced and quickly immersed in the story. By the way, at the end of last year, a person suddenly came to the capital. This person is young and handsome. Most importantly, he has good skills. The storyteller said mysteriously, "This person is travel-worn and exhausted." After arriving in the capital, he immediately went to the residence of Imperial Physician Song, the head of the Imperial Hospital. He used all his strength to knock on Imperial Physician Song's door and fainted. Everyone, guess why this person ran to Imperial Physician Song's house? Someone immediately guessed. Why else? Of course it's because he has an incurable disease and asked Imperial Physician Song to treat him. No. The storyteller shook his head. Could it be that Imperial Physician Song's relative was in trouble and wanted his help? The storyteller still shook his head. No. He kept Imperial Physician Song in suspense and quickly solved the mystery. He looked for Imperial Physician Song because he had a secret medical prescription and wanted to hand it to Imperial Physician Song. Unfortunately, he shook his head, and everyone immediately straightened up. Unfortunately what? Could it be that he didn't wake up after fainting? Go upstairs. Yundong could not help but twitch his lips. Why are you so black-hearted? Can't you expect something good from them? The storyteller slapped the wood again and shook his head. It's a pity that for a nameless commoner didn't have a visiting card or recommendation. How difficult was it to meet the head of the Imperial Hospital? The gatekeeper didn't allow anyone to enter at all. This person was chased out before he even saw Imperial Physician Song. However, he didn't give up. This medical prescription concerned thousands of commoners. Only by handing it to Imperial Physician Song could it be handed to the emperor. Only then could it be announced to the world so that no families in the world would be destroyed because of the illness. Hence, he dragged his exhausted body and guarded Imperial Physician Song's residence, thinking that he would definitely be able to see him when the sky turned dark. However, what he didn't know was that Imperial Physician Song happened to go out to gather herbs and wouldn't come back at all today. Everyone, think about it. It's December. It's so cold in the capital. He endured all the cold and waited outside for 3 days and 3 nights before Imperial Physician Song finally returned. When Imperial Physician Song saw his pale face and stiff body suddenly appear, he was shocked. Fortunately, Imperial Physician Song was benevolent. Seeing that he was trembling from the cold, he quickly got someone to bring the man back into the residence and let him eat something and drink hot water. Only then did he slowly recover. Who knew that this person's body would warm up and he could finally speak fluently? He immediately grabbed Imperial Physician Song's hand and said impatiently and excitedly, "Imperial Physician Song, the illness that has been troubling us for thousands of years can finally be resolved. We've finally found a way to prevent smallpox. In the future, we won't let anyone die from smallpox." What? Whether it was upstairs or downstairs, all the guests in the tea house could not help but stand up and widen their eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1004. Willing to go to the 18th level of hell? What illness did you just say? Smallpox? Some people were so excited that they wanted to rush forward. Fortunately, the waiter was smart and quickly stopped them. Everyone calm down. Wait for the storyteller to finish speaking. A distinguished guest upstairs questioned, "How is that possible? Since ancient times, no one has ever found a way to treat smallpox. You're bragging." The storyteller smiled. This gentleman is right. Imperial Physician Song didn't believe it either. Wasn't this nonsense? How could you treat such a life and death matter just like that? Impossible. Imperial Physician Song was angry. Imperial Physician Song was furious. Imperial Physician Song wanted to chase this person out. But this person firmly swore that if he said anything false, he would go to the 18th level of hell and be dismembered by 5 horses. He would be cut into 1,000 pieces and never reincarnate. Upstairs, Yundong was speechless. Did she write such a sentence? Could you not add it randomly? However, the storyteller became more and more excited as he spoke. His face turned red, and he slapped the wood in his hand. The entire Fortune Tea House fell silent. Everyone was so shocked by this oath that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. How ruthless was this? He had sworn such a heavy oath to himself. Imperial physician Song was shocked. When he saw how confident this person was, he thought that if what the man said was true, wouldn't it benefit the people? No one would wait for death because of smallpox anymore. How shocking would this be for the people of the world? He spoke passionately, and the people below also felt their blood boil. Go to. Ko the storyteller paused and lowered his voice. Therefore, Imperial physician Song was skeptical and patiently listened to him talk about the medical prescription. Unexpectedly, the more he listened, the more excited he became. The more he listened, the more he acknowledged the medical prescription. He immediately clapped his hands and cheered 3 times. However, as the head of the Imperial Hospital, Imperial physician Song did not see the effect of this prescription with his own eyes. Naturally, he would not announce it to the world. He had to be responsible to the world. Hence, he pushed everything aside and focused on experimenting with this prescription. He even applied for leave from the emperor. A month later, Imperial physician Song came out of the residence with a tired expression. However, his eyes emitted a light that was so hot that it could burn people. He entered the royal palace overnight and reported to the current emperor immediately. The storyteller cupped his hands towards the east. Everyone knows that His Majesty is wise. Ever since His Majesty ascended to the throne, he has been working hard to rule. He is wise and mighty, and he loves the people like his children. He can be said to be an emperor for thousands of years. He sent disaster relief in Yongning Prefecture, and he killed corrupt officials Wanqing Prefecture. Just take our Xuanhe Prefecture for example. The thieves on the mountain were also captured by the soldiers of the emperor. Only then can we commoners have our current good lives, right? Yes. This was true. The current emperor had only ascended the throne not long ago, but everything he did was for the sake of the common people to have a better life. The storyteller was satisfied. Therefore, although His Majesty was woken up in the middle of the night, when he heard that Imperial physician Song had brought over a medical prescription that could prevent smallpox, he immediately lost all his anger. He was extremely excited and filled with anticipation as he discussed with Imperial physician Song until midnight. The next day, His Majesty even personally left the royal palace to verify the results. Seeing that the medical prescription was really useful, the emperor was overjoyed. He waved his sleeve on the spot and gave the medical prescription a name: Cowpox Vaccination Method. The meaning is very simple. It means that those who are infected with cowpox will never be infected with smallpox again. Everyone was stunned. Cowpox infection? Are you serious? Someone asked softly. The storyteller said loudly, "Good question. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1005. Everyone in the capital is scared. After the emperor announced the cowpox vaccination method, everyone was questioning if this vaccination method was really useful. Is it true? If it's fake, won't they lose their lives? The storyteller continued, even though the emperor repeatedly guaranteed that there was no problem and more than 30 to 40 people had already been vaccinated with cowpox, and the emperor had seen it with his own eyes, many people still had doubts. The emperor was anxious. What should he do? This kind of thing that benefits the people is originally a great thing, but no one is willing to try it. Wouldn't it be a waste of such a good medical prescription? Every year, people who get smallpox would still die in batches. The emperor's heart was bleeding. These are his people. He wants to save everyone's lives. The storyteller screamed at the top of his lungs. Some people below had already begun to wipe their tears. The emperor really loved his people like his children. The emperor is a benevolent ruler. Although he was anxious, he didn't want to force others to take the vaccine. But was this the only way? There's no progress at all. At this moment, the 11-year-old second prince knelt solemnly in front of the emperor and said with a firm expression, "Father, I'm willing to give it a try. I haven't had smallpox yet, so I can take the vaccine. When the time comes, Father will invite all the officials and commoners to witness it with their own eyes. They will definitely believe you." Everyone was stunned. The second prince? The second prince was actually willing to be a test subject? Wasn't this too bold? Wasn't he afraid of failure? The storyteller was shocked. Everyone, you didn't hear wrongly. The second prince really wanted to test it himself. The first prince had had smallpox before. Even if he wanted to help, there was nothing he could do. However, the second prince never had it. If he wanted to test it, he must be gambling with his life. Once this shocking action spread, everyone in the capital was terrified. Very good, it was time to ask the questions. Upstairs, Yundong nodded slightly and took a sip of water. She did not randomly pick a title, right? How appropriate. Go to. The guests in the tea house widened their eyes. But wasn't that so? Not to mention the people in the capital, they were also frightened when they heard that. That was a prince, and the second prince was the son of the first wife. How noble was his status? He was actually willing to be vaccinated with cowpox? The storyteller took a sip of tea. He had been too excited just now, and his throat was a little smoky. Someone below could not help but hold his breath and ask carefully, "What happened after that? Did the emperor agree?" The storyteller pointed at him. Good question. Everyone was paying attention to this matter. In less than a day, it shocked the court. None of the officials in the capital agreed. They all submitted reports to plead with the emperor to dispel the second prince's thoughts. There was even a loyal and patriotic minister who brought his son into the palace and asked him to replace the second prince with this cowpox vaccination method. Guess what the emperor said? The storyteller paused. Before anyone could speak, he continued, the emperor said, "My son is a prince. He is respected by tens of thousands of people and praised by the world. He enjoys power and doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. Then, it's only right for him to do something for the people of the world. For the sake of the people of the world, I agree with him to personally test the cowpox vaccination method. You don't have to persuade me anymore. This matter is settled." Everyone present sucked in a sharp breath. His Majesty agreed just like that? The emperor has blessed the world. It's the blessing of the people to have such a wise ruler. It's the blessing of the world. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1006. Too effective. Many people were grateful. They knelt down and shouted, "Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor!" Yundong was speechless. This was too effective. Fortunately, Prefecture Magistrate Dai did not use the entire page of praise. Otherwise, these people would probably kneel while listening to the entire story. After everyone expressed their gratitude, the storyteller continued, "Everyone, for the sake of the world and to make the smallpox disappear completely and not let the common people lose their lives because of this illness, the emperor has really put in a lot of effort." Then what happened to the second prince? Someone asked anxiously. A smile instantly appeared on the storyteller's face. The cowpox vaccination method has already been confirmed by the head of the Imperial Hospital and has been approved by all the Imperial physicians. What do you think the second prince will do? He will naturally be safe and healthy. Moreover, from now on, he won't be troubled by smallpox anymore. At that moment, the entire capital was celebrating. All the officials had personally witnessed the process of the second prince's vaccination, and they had personally seen him recover. The cowpox vaccination method was indeed a major invention. The exciting moment had arrived, and all the officials cheered for the heavens to bless our empire. The storyteller's saliva flew everywhere, and his entire body trembled. Everyone witnessed the effectiveness of the cowpox vaccination method. After the second prince, Prince Ning, Prince An, the Prime Minister, the Minister of Justice, and the others all submitted a plea. They wanted their sons to follow in the second prince's footsteps and be vaccinated to prevent smallpox. His Majesty agreed immediately. Unfortunately, everyone was stunned. What was a pity? Didn't they say that it was effective? The storyteller shook his head again. Unfortunately, the number of Imperial physicians was limited. Other than the person who invented the cowpox vaccination method, only Imperial physician Song knew this vaccination method. The emperor was extremely worried. He asked this person and Imperial physician Song to immediately give this medical prescription to all the Imperial physicians and let everyone in the capital be vaccinated as soon as possible. You have to know that in our vast country, countless people die of smallpox every day. The earlier they are vaccinated, the earlier they can prevent it and feel at ease. However, other than the capital, there are still millions of people in the world that the Emperor has to care about. What should we do? There are only so many Imperial physicians, and our manpower is really limited. If we wait until everyone in the capital is vaccinated, who knows when it will be our Xuanhe Prefecture's turn? Ah? The people below exclaimed. Didn't that mean that many people on their side would die from smallpox? The storyteller shook his head and sighed. Sigh, there's nothing we can do. Our prefectural city is too far away. After the vaccination, there's still Linzhou Prefecture, Wanqing Prefecture, and Yongning Prefecture. Someone hurriedly said, then can we ask the prefecture magistrate to send a letter and beg the emperor to send us an imperial physician so that we can be vaccinated? That's right, that's right. My first 2 children died of smallpox. Now that I finally have a 3rd son, I'm on tenterhooks all day, afraid that he won't be able to survive this illness. Now that we finally have a solution, I don't want to miss it. That's right. I have an older brother who also died of this illness. My parents suffered a setback and haven't recovered until now. Yundong listened quietly from the 2nd floor. Some of them should be hired to talk here, right? The storyteller spread his hands. There's nothing I can do. I'm just a storyteller. I can only tell everyone about this joyous matter. I don't know anything about treating illnesses. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of people suddenly walked over. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1007. The subtext is very obvious. Someone with sharp eyes saw the person in front clearly and immediately shouted, "It's young Master Dai. That's young Master Dai." The people in the tea house turned their heads. The people at the door were close. They quickly ran to Dai Wenhua and blocked his way. Dai Wenhua was confused. He looked at the commoners who had suddenly appeared in surprise and took 2 steps back. What's the matter? Yundong could not see clearly from the 2nd floor, but he knew that Dai Wenhua had followed their plan and led his men past the entrance of the tea house when everyone was at a loss. Now that the way forward was blocked, the bailiffs behind Dai Wenhua immediately looked at everyone warily and separated the crowd. Someone poked his head out and asked loudly, "Young Master Dai, there's already a medical prescription in the capital to prevent smallpox. Is this true?" That's right, young Master Dai. The 2nd prince personally tested this medical prescription. Is there such a thing? Young Master Dai, when will it be our Xuanhe Prefecture's turn to be vaccinated? Young Master Dai, we can't wait for a few years. Dai Wenhua's expression changed from confusion to surprise to enlightenment. In the end, he sighed heavily, his expression rich and convincing. He nodded and said, I didn't expect all of you to already know. This is indeed true. As he spoke, he raised his hand. Only then did everyone realize that he was holding a piece of paper in his hand. It looked like an official document. Go to Ko, he said loudly, this is true. Moreover, the emperor is concerned about the people. A few days ago, he has already sent official documents to the various government offices and sent an imperial physician over to teach the doctors of the various prefectures about the cowpox vaccination method. Everyone should have heard that the government offices summoned the doctors of the various medical halls a few days ago for this matter. After all the doctors learn it, they will naturally inoculate everyone. Someone in the crowd asked loudly, can the doctors learn it? Can the imperial physician sent by the imperial court inoculate us? Erase the point. Dai Wenhua said, the imperial physician sent by the imperial court will stay in the Xuanhe prefecture for 3 months and personally guide the local doctors to inoculate everyone. After 3 months, the imperial physicians will return to the capital. Everyone knows that the imperial physicians belong to the imperial hospital. It's already not easy for them to leave the capital and come to the Xuanhe prefecture for 3 months. Therefore, if everyone is worried, try your best to come to the government office for inoculation within 3 months. It's just 3 months. If you don't hurry, you won't get a share. Don't hesitate. When the Imperial physician leaves, you can only let the local doctors vaccinate you. By the way, because there are many people in the prefectural city, the number of people vaccinated every day is limited. For the time being, only 200 people are allowed to be vaccinated every day. After 200 people are vaccinated, you will have to wait for a day. Of course, you can register first and come when the time is right. Yes, not only was there a time limit, but there was also a limit to the number of people. Therefore, if you didn't sign up today, you might have to wait until 3 months later. Also, Dai Wenhua continued, the Imperial physicians sent by the Emperor are free to inoculate everyone. This is the Emperor's grace. However, after the Imperial physicians leave, whether the doctors in the Prefecture city want to charge will depend on themselves. After all, the doctors also have to make money. Yes, if they did not hurry up, not only would they not have a chance, but they would also have to spend money. They would have to think about it. The subtext was already very obvious. After Dai Wenhua finished speaking, he waved the paper in his hand and said, "This is an official document. Everyone make way. I want to paste it at the city gate. If there's anything you don't understand, just look at it yourself. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1008. More and more people. The bailiffs separated the crowd and let Dai Wenhua walk forward. The others still wanted to ask, but one of the bailiffs stayed behind and said loudly, "If you have any more questions, you can ask at the government office. Those who want to register, please go to the government office as soon as possible to find the registrar." As soon as he said this, a few people had already run away. Seeing this, the others couldn't care less. Afraid that they would fall behind, they hurriedly followed. As expected, there was already a registrar sitting at the entrance of the government office. The first person rushed to him with sweat all over his face. "Sir, is the registration for cowpox vaccination method here? I'm here for registration now. Can I be vaccinated soon?" The registrar shook his head. "Of course not. The cowpox vaccination will only begin the day after tomorrow. However, you can remember the name first." Not to mention that Qingyuan was still teaching the other doctors the cowpox vaccination method, just the cowpox liquid was not that easy to collect. The man swallowed and hesitated. Should he really register? Should he really be vaccinated? However, before he could figure it out, someone pushed him from behind. "Do you want to register or not? If you don't want to, move aside. Don't block my way." The registrar looked up at him. They must have found the shill. He raised his hand and asked the person, "Name, address." "My name is Hideniu. I live in the prefectural city's Hulu Alley. Not only do I have to be vaccinated, but I also have to sign up for my younger siblings. And I go to Ko." Before she could finish, she was pushed aside by the first person. "What's the hurry? I haven't said anything." That person did not argue with him. All right. Hurry up." The first person immediately mentioned 3 or 4 names. Soon, another large group of people arrived. All of them scrambled to squeeze in front of the desk. Fortunately, a bailiff ran over and asked someone to line up first. There were a lot of people. Most of them were listening to books on the first floor of Fortune Tea House. The people on the second floor all had some wealth. When they came over, they were very slow. Moreover, they were actually still a little hesitant in their hearts. They wondered if they should just let these ordinary people test it to confirm that it was safe. Therefore, even though they had come, most of them were still standing far away and had no intention of registering. Unexpectedly, a moment later, the registrar suddenly shouted, "The 200 slots for the first day are already full. Now, start registering for the second day." "What? It's already the second day? Didn't only a dozen people pass in front?" The registrar said loudly, "Although only a dozen or so people have gone over, everyone has reported their siblings, sons, daughters, nephews, and nieces. Every person has already reported many names, so the spots are naturally full." "What? That worked?" The crowd immediately became anxious. Those wealthy families who originally wanted to observe also became anxious. However, at this moment, someone shouted, "My family is in Fengkai County. Sir, can you leave a few spots for us? When my family comes, we can fill them in directly. I have to tell my uncles in the countryside." This time, it was like poking a hornet's nest. Those who were originally hesitating no longer hesitated and quickly went forward to sign up. Those who couldn't make up their minds immediately got someone to inform their families. There were also commoners who did not go to the tea house to listen to the story. When they saw that there was a long line at the entrance of the county office, they immediately came over curiously to ask about the situation. Immediately, someone explained the process to them vividly. There were more and more people. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1009. Another shocking title. Everyone in Fortune Tea House had left. Only Yundong was still upstairs. She slowly finished the tea and snacks on the table. After all, she had spent money. She could not waste it. She would not stop until she finished the last peanut. The storyteller downstairs was still drinking water. He was too excited and his mouth was dry. The boss walked over at this moment and patted his shoulder. "Not bad, well said." The storyteller chuckled. "Boss, when are we going to start the second half of the story? These people are too anxious. They've all run away before you can finish." They were too anxious for a moment and afraid that I wouldn't have a spot. I can understand. When they remember later, they will naturally ask who was the first to discover that the cowpox vaccination method can prevent smallpox. "Boss, should we release the title now?" "Well, release it in 2 days." "Yes, I'll write it first." The boss was in high spirits. The story that young Master Dai had brought was indeed extraordinary. Even the question was especially attractive. The number of guests today was several times more than before, and this story was unique. He could repeat it 2 more times tomorrow and the day after. At that time, the storytellers in the other tea houses in the prefecture would probably memorize it and spread it everywhere. However, this story was only halfway through. How to resolve the suspense left behind would depend on the Fortune Tea House. The customers would definitely increase crazily. When the boss thought of this, he immediately rushed to write the title. Go. After a while, Yundong finally brought Tong Shuitao downstairs. When she walked behind the boss, she couldn't help but take a look. Indeed, she saw the eye-catching headline, "Oh my God! The person who invented the cowpox vaccination method was actually him." Yundong coughed quietly. Why did he feel so ashamed? She waved and quickly left with Tong Shuitao. When the carriage passed by the entrance of the government office, it was indeed crowded and bustling. The news about the cowpox vaccination method was completely popular. Everyone was discussing it. The number of registrars at the entrance of the government office had also changed from 1 to 3. The queue was very long. Yundong lowered the curtain and sighed slightly. I only realized now that there are so many people in our prefectural city. Today, there aren't too many people. Many people still don't know this news. Tomorrow will probably be even more lively. Tong Shuitao steered the carriage in a different direction to avoid bumping into others. However, just as she was about to leave, she suddenly saw a familiar figure squeezing through the crowd. She hurriedly pulled the reins. "Miss, is that Shao Yuan?" Yundong took a closer look. Wasn't that so? Shao Yuan was small and was also at the back of the queue. However, there were too many people around her. Yundong saw her being pushed around a few times. Her feet seemed to have been stepped on a few times. It was so painful that her face turned pale. There were also people who spoke ill of her. If not for the fact that there were bailiffs protecting the peace, she would have been thrown out. Yundong paused. She immediately got off the carriage and walked towards Shao Yuan. Shao Yuan was trying her best to poke her head out. When she saw Yundong walking over, she was stunned for a moment before she quickly smiled. "Sister Gu, you're also queuing up?" A woman behind her immediately looked at Yundong warily, as if she would interfere. Yundong shook her head. "I'm not here to queue. Why are you here alone? Where's your mother?" If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1010, Dr. Pig? At the mention of Madame Fan, Xiaoyuan looked a little sad. She said in a low voice, "My mother caught a cold. When I came out to buy medicine for her, I heard someone talking about the government office, so I came to line up." As she spoke, she raised her hand. Sure enough, there was a medicine bag in her hand. However, the medicine bag was a little flat from being squeezed around. Yundong waved her hand. "Come out first. I'll bring you back." But Xiaoyuan was very hesitant. She looked at the team in front of her and the long line of people behind her. She could not move her legs. She knew about smallpox. When she was very young, she had a close playmate who had smallpox and could not be saved. Later on, her mother told her about the seriousness of smallpox. She especially hoped that there would be medicine that could cure this illness. Now that she finally had it, she did not want to miss it. Seeing this, Tong Shuitao immediately leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Miss knows that Imperial physician from the capital. Don't worry." Xiaoyuan's eyes lit up when she heard that. Only then did she come out of the team. Yundong held her hand and got into the carriage. She looked at the long line and slowly exhaled. Xiaoyuan had helped her before. Seeing her in such a sorry state, she naturally wouldn't sit back and do nothing. The two of them sent her home directly. Madame Fan had indeed caught a cold. Fortunately, she had recovered a lot after taking a few medicines. Seeing that Xiaoyuan had not returned for a long time, she was anxious. When she saw Yundong and the rest, she quickly went into the house to avoid infecting them. Source: Calm, updated on. Hence, it was Xiaoyuan's father who received Yundong. Yundong explained to him about the incident at the government office, and Xiaoyuan's father immediately became excited. "It can prevent smallpox? Really? Then, I'll queue up and register for my Xiaoyuan." Yundong hurriedly stopped him. "Oh, I specially brought Xiaoyuan back. There's no need to queue up. I'll get Ah Zhu to come over later and give Xiaoyuan the vaccine first." Xiaoyuan's family wasn't alone. There were also the Su family and Zhuangzi and the others. She might as well inoculate everyone in one go so that there wouldn't be any trouble in the future. However, the person performing the vaccination was Ah Zhu. Qingyuan didn't have time at all. Speaking of which, compared to Song Dejiang, Ah Zhu might know this vaccination technique better. After all, ever since Qingyuan started exploring the cowpox vaccination method, Ah Zhu had been learning by his side. He had even personally infected himself with cowpox, so there was no problem with his skills. Xiaoyuan's father was even more grateful. Then he'll have to trouble Dr. Zhu one. Yundong was speechless. "Dr. Pig?" The corners of her mouth couldn't help but twitch. This sounded too awkward. Shouldn't Ah Zhu and the rest change their names? What were their names in the past? She had to ask later. Yundong shook her head and agreed on a time for vaccination with Xiaoyuan and the rest before leaving with Tong Shuitao. Unexpectedly, when she went out, she happened to see Mother Su, who lived next door. Mother Su was slightly stunned when she saw her. Then she went up to her excitedly. "Boss Gu, why are you here?" "I bumped into Xiaoyuan on the way and brought her back." Yundong nodded. "Aunt, I won't bother you anymore." "Well, leave first." With that, Yundong raised her foot again. Mother Su ran up to her. "Hey, wait, Boss Gu." "Aunt, what's the matter?" I do have something to ask you. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1011. A Match Made in Heaven. Yundong raised her eyebrows. "Sure, ask away." Mother Su looked left and right, looking like she was hesitating. Yundong saw that it was still early, so she simply said, "Why don't we talk inside?" All right. Boss Gu, please come in." When she entered the Su family's house, Mother Su immediately poured her a glass of water. She was very enthusiastic. Yundong had just drunk water at Xiaoyuan's house. She simply held the cup in her hand and asked bluntly, "Aunt, if you have any difficulties, just tell me. Su Changshun and Su Qing are helping me now. I will definitely help you if I can." Then I'll get straight to the point. Mother Su coughed lightly. Even though she was at home, she still lowered her voice and said softly, I just want to ask Boss Gu, how's Zhuangzi's character? Zhuangzi? Gu Yundong was surprised. Aunt, why are you asking about him? Well, he and Changshan are both employees at Gus. The two of them have been together for a long time and have a good relationship. They've been to my house twice. I think this young man looks quite energetic and polite. He's generous and smart. I quite like him. Gu Yundong blinked. So be it. So, that's why I asked Changshan to ask around. I know that this boy is not engaged yet and his family is simple. Source. Calm, updated on. Kogu Yundong suddenly reacted and widened her eyes. Aunt, do you like him? Do you want him in? Su Qing. Mother Su was a little embarrassed. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. I do have such thoughts. She was living a good life now. Her children had work to do, and her family was slowly starting to have savings. Now, the most worrisome thing was the marriage of his children. The eldest son was still all right. He was a man and was not shabby looking. Especially after he became a worker at Gus, there were really many matchmakers. It was just that the eldest son wanted to earn more money and live a better life before getting married. However, Su Qing was different. She had been unengaged before. In this day and age, it was not good for a woman's reputation to be unengaged. Many people did not care about the reason for the unengagement. In any case, they were immediately unhappy when they heard that the marriage had been cancelled. There were also some families who took a fancy to Su Qing, but their conditions were too poor. They were either widowers or were in poor health. Or maybe, there were too many people in the family. Those men wanted to find a diligent wife to work for as a caretaker. How could Mother Su be happy with such families? Later on, Su Qing became a female employee of New Tea Pavilion. Needless to say, there were some families with better conditions, but their character was too bad, especially when a few families actually came for Su Qing's monthly salary and asked her to hand over all her money. There were also people who despised her for showing her face in work and asked her to resign after she got married to avoid embarrassing herself. However, they turned around and said that she could let others do this work. After all, there were also older women working in the kitchen in New Tea Pavilion. Mother Su almost fainted when she heard that. These people had a good plan. Because of this, Mother Su was a little disheartened. Until she met Zhuangzi. This young man had a sweet mouth and upright face. He also had a job. His family was simple, and his sister was also a female employee of New Tea Pavilion. He definitely wouldn't mind a woman working outside. The more Mother Su looked at him, the more she liked him. She felt that he and her daughter were a match made in heaven. As for whether Zhuangzi was from the prefectural city or the countryside, that was not important. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10-12. This bastard is Heartless. Gu Yundong was a little stunned. She had actually taken a fancy to Zhuangzi? The question was, why did he come to ask her? Although she was the boss and had always been a woman of her word, she was not married yet. She was really just a girl. Gu Yundong felt wronged. Seeing that she was silent, Mother Su asked softly, Boss Gu? Is there anything wrong? Or is Zhuangzi actually married in the countryside? No, he's not married. Gu Yundong hurriedly shook her head. Mother Su heaved a sigh of relief. Boss Gu, I haven't told anyone about this, not even my parents. I want to ask you first to understand what kind of person Zhuangzi is. What kind of person was he? Gu Yundong thought for a moment and decided to give Mother Su a heads up. Zhuangzi is indeed a good person. In the beginning, he was a worker at Gus in my county city. It was because he did a good job that I transferred him to the prefectural city. But there's something I have to make clear to Auntie first. In the past, Zhuangzi was a hooligan in the village. Although he did not do anything outrageous, he did commit theft. Gu Yundong was not sure if Mother Su would mind this matter. If she did, then this matter would be over. Mother Su was indeed stunned. A hooligan? She had never thought of this, much less expected it. Source. Calm, updated on. Kogu Yundong did not hide anything. She also explained the reason why he was a hooligan and his changes and efforts over these days. Mother Su lowered her head and remained silent for a long time. After a while, she raised her head again and said, "If that's the case, he became a hooligan for his parents and sister. Now that he's better, he's motivated now. The past is in the past. Moreover, from another perspective, he's a person who values relationships and loyalty. He cares a lot about his family and protects them in his own way." Gu Yundong was speechless. How could that be understood? Was Xuanhe really someone who valued relationships and loyalty? However, Mother Su felt that it was impossible for people to be perfect. She did not know anything about benevolence and righteousness, but a man who was good to his family was responsible. If he knew how to be filial to his parents, dote on his sister, and work hard to earn money, he would treat his wife well in the future. They were all small fries. It was enough that they could protect their small family. At this moment, Gu Yundong actually felt that Mother Su was extremely smart. But what if Xuanhe, that bastard, focused on developing his career? He did not seem to have thought about marriage. His goal was to be a shopkeeper and reach the peak of his life. This bastard had no feelings. At the thought of this, the veins on Gu Yundong's forehead twitched. After a while, she said, "Since Auntie thinks that Xuanhe is a good person, I'll go back and figure out his intentions. If he's interested, I'll get him to find a matchmaker to propose marriage. If he still doesn't want to get married, well, pretend that we never talked about this. What do you think?" Mother Su immediately smiled and nodded. "Thank you, Boss Gu." Gu Yundong waved her hand. "There's no need. They're both my shop assistants. I'll be happy if something good happens to them. Just don't ask me to be a matchmaker next time, will you?" She was really not good at this. Gu Yundong secretly wiped her sweat and left the Su residence with Tong Shuitao. After getting into the carriage, she collapsed inside. Tong Shuitao looked at her in surprise, paused and asked softly, "Miss, are we going to Gus to look for Xuanhe? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 10:13. Get used to being ugly. Gu Yundong stood up and looked outside. He shook his head and said, "I'm not going. The road to Gus is blocked now. It's not easy to walk on. Besides, I haven't thought of how to ask Xuanhe." Tong Shuitao was puzzled. How else could she ask? She could just ask him if he wanted a wife and let Miss introduce one to him. However, there was indeed a crowd on the road. It was getting late, so it was better to go home first. The small courtyard was also very lively. On the street where they lived, many people were discussing this matter. The Gu family knew that the cowpox vaccination method was Shao Qingyuan's idea, but they didn't say anything. For the past few days, other than Gu Yundong, the rest of the Gu family had been obediently staying in the small courtyard. A few days ago, Shao Qingyuan had just finished inoculating Miss Gu Yunka. She was much better now. The younger siblings in the family had not had smallpox yet. Since there was a preventive method, it would definitely be used on them immediately. However, Yunfu and Yuanji were in the county city, so they inoculated Kiki first. It was just that the young lady still had marks on her body. She felt that she was too ugly and refused to come out of her room. The first thing Gu Yundong saw when she came in was that she had covered her head with red gauze. She looked like a little bride. She smiled at once. The little girl heard the sound and immediately turned her head. "Sister, you're back? Where's Brother Shao?" "He won't be coming back today, but he told me that Miss Kiki's acne will be gone soon. Can you hold on for 2 more days?" "Okay." The young lady felt that she would get used to being ugly. As long as she didn't look in the mirror or the basin, she could still deceive herself. That night, Shao Qingyuan didn't return. He would probably have to stay in the government office for the next 2 days to train those doctors urgently. The entire prefectural city was just as they thought. The story of the cowpox vaccination method quickly spread in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th tea houses. More and more people knew about this method to prevent smallpox. They learned about the great actions of the current emperor and the second prince. They also knew that there was a long queue outside the government office. The number of people registered had already lined up until a month later. Most people had the mentality of following the masses. Coupled with the fact that this was an official endorsement, the imperial court would definitely not joke about such a matter of life and death. This cowpox vaccination method must be real. They had to take this opportunity to queue up. Not only did they record their names, but they also reported the names of the people close to them. The people of many villages outside the prefecture capital also heard the news and rushed over. There were even people from the nearby county cities who came to register. Seeing that there were more and more people, the prefecture magistrate began to get people to tell stories in the tea houses in the counties. However, the outcome was still slightly different. After all, it was impossible for the imperial physicians sent by the imperial court to go to every county city. Being able to stay in the prefectural city for 3 months was already the limit. Therefore, they changed the part where the imperial physician was staying in the prefectural city to that the doctors personally taught by the imperial physicians personally stayed in the county cities. The other 2 points, the limitation of numbers and the free consultation, were the same as in the prefecture capital. However, this was enough. Soon, there was a long queue outside the county office. Qingyuan only returned to the small courtyard on the 3rd night. When he returned, it was already dark. Almost everyone in the Gu family had gone to rest. Only Gu Yundong was still sitting in the study reading the account book. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:14. I'll pick a good day. First, Gu Yundong knew that he would definitely come back today, so she specially waited for him. Hearing the commotion outside, she immediately came out. Qingyuan looked very tired. Although he had already washed up and changed into clean clothes, he was still haggard. Gu Yundong quickly pulled him to sit down. She stood behind him and massaged his shoulders. "Are you tired?" After all, he was alone. But in just a few days, he had to choose from hundreds of doctors those with good character. He also had to teach these doctors and make sure that they didn't make any mistakes and master the entire process of the cowpox vaccination method. The workload was so huge that it was very tiring. Gu Yundong was very dissatisfied with the emperor. He could have sent an imperial physician over to her prefectural city, but he insisted on letting Qingyuan organize this matter. He was too black-hearted. If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have spent so much time praising his achievements. "Are you feeling better?" Gu Yundong pinched his shoulder and said, "I made chicken soup tonight. I left a bowl in the kitchen to keep it warm. I'll bring it over for you now. Have some and go to bed early. I'll drink it later." Qingyuan pulled her in front of him. It was late at night, so his actions were indeed much bolder. He reached out and held her on his lap, burying his head in her neck. "I'll just hug you. I haven't seen you for a few days." As he spoke, he could not help but tighten his grip. "Well, start giving everyone vaccines tomorrow. We might be even busier later." Gu Yundong felt very comfortable in his arms. She leaned against him and whispered in his ear, "It's okay. I'll visit you every day." "Really?" "Yes, really." Qingyuan immediately heaved a sigh of satisfaction. "In 3 months, I will almost be able to let go. At that time, let's prepare for the wedding, okay?" "Okay." Gu Yundong raised her head slightly and looked at his slightly curled lips. She felt inexplicably happy. "Then, shall I choose a date first?" It was said that it was best to choose 3 good days for a wedding and then take them to the temple to calculate which was the most suitable through divination. Gu Yundong felt that it was time to prepare. Then, after her father finished the prefectural examination, she would show her father the 3 days. Qingyuan's eyes lit up. Looking at her serious expression, his heart trembled and he kissed her fiercely. Gu Yundong almost lost her balance. She subconsciously grabbed his shoulders with both hands. Fortunately, his big hands were firmly tightening her from behind. After the kiss, Qingyuan's voice was hoarse. "Choose a closer time." Gu Yundong could not help but laugh. She pushed him. "Got it? I'll bring you some chicken soup." With that, she stood up and left. When she passed by the main room, she suddenly heard Gu Dajiang sneeze heavily. Not only was Gu Yundong shocked, But Gu Dajiang himself was also shocked awake. He turned around in a daze and continued to sleep with his wife in his arms. However, he felt like he had missed something. The next day, the Xuanhe Prefecture office was filled with people early in the morning. Everyone was waiting for the door to open and for the vaccination to begin. Apart from excitement, the 200 people who registered on the first day also looked uneasy. They were also afraid. After all, they were the first batch of people. If they failed, the others would still have a chance to escape, but they could only wait for death. More than half of the 200 people regretted it. However, they had to come after registering their names and addresses. Otherwise, they would be arrested. Among them, one person was especially regretful. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:15. Seeing Shao Qingyuan. This person was shopkeeper Pan. He happened to have nothing to do that day and was listening to stories in Fortune Tea House. When he heard from young Master Dai that he could register for vaccination, he rushed to the government office without a word. He was lucky enough to finally register in the last place. He almost lost his life. However, when he really came for the vaccination today, he felt uneasy again. He was afraid that he had made the wrong decision back then. Therefore, he could not help but retreat. However, at this moment, the door of the government office opened. Two teams of bailiffs quickly ran out and asked the government office to open up a piece of land. Immediately after, Prefecture Magistrate Dai brought the private advisor and the others out. Looking at the noisy crowd outside, he immediately waved his hand and asked everyone to stop. Then he said, "Quiet. I know that everyone still has a certain amount of doubts and distrust towards the cowpox vaccination method. I guarantee that the cowpox vaccination method is indeed a medical procedure that can prevent smallpox. It has been confirmed by all the Imperial physicians in the Imperial hospital of the current dynasty. The method was named by His Majesty and personally tested by the second prince, so everyone can rest assured." After all, he was the prefecture magistrate with a good reputation and power. When everyone present heard him say these words personally, they were instantly relieved. The prefecture magistrate continued, "Moreover, the person who came to our Xuanhe prefecture this time to guide the other doctors to learn the cowpox vaccination method is someone who has personally vaccinated the second prince." Wow, the audience was surprised, but soon became happy and excited. It was definitely not a problem if he had inoculated the second prince personally. If his medical skills were not good, the emperor would not be at ease with him personally doing it, right? The prefecture magistrate's words were like a calming pill for everyone. Seeing that the commoners looked relieved, Prefecture Magistrate Dai was satisfied. "Now, please follow Constable Wang to the Million Gold Pavilion. You will be vaccinated there." The Million Gold Pavilion was a large courtyard not far from the government office. It was once a mansion under the name of an official, but it was emptied after his house was raided. Because people said that the feng shui of this courtyard was not good and the price was not low, no one had bought it until now, so it was still owned by the government. It just so happened that there would be at least 3 months of vaccination time, and there were many commoners. It would definitely not be convenient for them to do it in the government office. After thinking about it, Prefecture Magistrate Dai got someone to clean up this Million Gold Pavilion and settle them here. As soon as he finished speaking, the private advisor had already begun to call out names. Then, Constable Wang led these people to the Million Gold Pavilion. Not only were the 200 people who were going to be vaccinated today following behind, but there were at least 1,000 people along the way. When they arrived at the Million Gold Pavilion, other than the 200 people, everyone else stopped. Then, they saw that there were already more than 100 doctors standing inside the door. Among them, there were dozens of reputable doctors in the prefecture city. Many people knew them and they were very good doctors. Seeing them, these people felt more at ease. Constable Wang quickly called out their names and led the commoners to the doctors. The rest of the people who had not had their turn waited at the side. Shopkeeper Pan had nothing to do because he was in last place. However, he still looked nervously at the people who were being vaccinated. After watching for a while, he felt uncomfortable, so he turned to look elsewhere. Shao Qingyuan. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1016. He's the Imperial Physician? Impossible. Shao Qingyuan had just parted ways with Gu Yundong at the door. He did not let her enter the million gold pavilion. There were people everywhere, and they were being vaccinated. The air was dirty, so it was not appropriate to bring people in. However, Gu Yundong had given him many masks before he left. She told him to change them regularly and distribute the rest to other doctors. It was more or less beneficial. After Shao Qingyuan took the masks, he asked her to go back and do her work. After watching Gu Yundong leave with his own eyes, he turned around and entered the million gold pavilion. At this moment, he was giving masks to these doctors who were preparing, so he did not have time to put one on himself. The doctors had also come into contact with the epidemic in the past. At that time, they would cover their mouths and noses with a cloth. Now that they saw what Shao Qingyuan had brought over, they still found it very novel. The mask was really thin and dry. With 2 straps tied behind her ears, it would not fall off easily even if they ran. It was too convenient. All of them immediately thanked Shao Qingyuan for his good intentions. After interacting with Shao Qingyuan for the past few days, they increasingly felt that not only was this young man extremely talented in medicine, but he was also a person who did not hide anything. When they asked him about the methods of the imperial physicians in the capital to deal with illnesses, he would tell them frankly. Moreover, he was very cautious and meticulous. In the past few days, other than listening to the process of the cowpox vaccination, they had also personally gone to the death cell to take over those criminals who had committed capital crimes. At that time, Shao Qingyuan had stood at the side and personally guided them. Therefore, everyone had experience. They were not afraid in front of these commoners at all. The masks in Shao Qingyuan's hand were quickly distributed. The one in his hand was personally made by Gu Yundong. He took it and looked at it. A second before he put it on, Shopkeeper Pan happened to look over and saw him. Shopkeeper Pan was stunned. He was too familiar with Shao Qingyuan. Not only had this person caused him to lose face, but he had also suffered a prison sentence. Now that his life was getting worse, even if he turned to dust, Shopkeeper Pan would still be able to recognize him. But how did this person appear here? Looking at his face, he had the same thing as the other doctors. Could he be a doctor too? But how was that possible? Shopkeeper Pan was puzzled, but he had learned from his mistakes. Instead of rushing forward, he carefully observed. Then, he realized that Shao Qingyuan did not personally inoculate people. However, he shuttled between the doctors and guided them in the inoculation method. He looked like, right, it was as if he was the boss. It was as if he was the imperial physician from the capital who had specially come to the prefectural city to teach these doctors the vaccination method. How was this possible? He was just a brat from the countryside. How could he have such ability? Shopkeeper Pan's heart was filled with anger and excitement. He had to expose him. However, to be on the safe side, Shopkeeper Pan suppressed his impulse and quietly walked to the side of an old doctor who seemed to have a good temper. He pretended to be curious and asked, "Doctor, who is that young master? Is he also a doctor here? Why don't I see him helping others with vaccination?" The doctor happened to be idle. When he heard this, he looked in the direction of Shopkeeper Pan's finger and immediately smiled. "Oh, you mean young Master Shao? He's the imperial physician from the capital. He has to supervise everything. It's naturally not appropriate for him to do it himself." An imperial physician from the capital? How is that possible? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1017. He wants to expose him. Shopkeeper Pan suddenly stood up. Although he already had a guess in his heart, he still shouted in shock. His voice was a little loud and instantly attracted everyone's attention in the hall. The doctor who had just answered his question was immediately displeased. "What are you shouting about? Why can't young Master Shao be an imperial physician from the capital?" But he, Shopkeeper Pan pointed at Shao Qingyuan, but his mind was racing. He knew that Shao Qingyuan was from Fengkai County. He also knew that the guy was a poor kid from the countryside. For dozens of copper coins a day, the guy worked in his shop and let him order him around. The guy didn't even have decent clothes on him. He ate dry steamed buns and didn't have any relatives. How could someone like him be an imperial physician from the capital? This was a liar. This was clearly a liar. Yes, this person must have even hidden it from the prefecture magistrate. He was going to kill the entire Xuanhe prefecture. Shopkeeper Pan was excited. He had finally found an opportunity to take revenge. Therefore, when some bailiffs thought that he was here to cause trouble and wanted to throw him out, he immediately shouted, "Let go of me. Let me tell you, he's not an imperial physician from the capital. He's a liar. Really, I've seen him before. He's just a penniless and ruthless poor boy. How can he be an imperial physician who saves the world?" Everyone present was stunned. Even the bailiffs stopped moving. Shao Qingyuan looked at Shopkeeper Pan with a trace of confusion in his eyes. Curious. Who is this person? Do I know him? Have I seen him? Shopkeeper Pan was even angrier when he saw his expression. Great, he still pretended not to know him. Although almost 2 years had passed, she had humiliated and bullied him back then. How could this brat not remember him? Shopkeeper Pan broke free from the constable's hand and suddenly ran in front of him. He sneered and said, "Don't pretend. Let me tell you, I definitely won't let you do anything to harm the commoners of our Xuanhe prefecture." He spoke especially righteously. If he exposed Shao Qingyuan's true colors in front of everyone, the prefecture magistrate would definitely look at him in a different light. All the citizens of the Xuanhe prefecture would be grateful that he had saved their lives. At that time, everything he had lost in the past would come back. Just thinking about it made Shopkeeper Pan tremble with excitement. He asked Shao Qingyuan loudly, "Let me ask you, are you from Fengkai County? Is your name Shao Qingyuan?" "Yes, so what?" Shao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Shopkeeper Pan snorted and said to everyone, "Did everyone hear that? He's from Fengkai County. He's not an imperial physician from the capital at all. He's a liar who came to harm everyone." The people present exclaimed and stood up one after another to take a step back. The person who had just received the vaccination was about to cry. He grabbed the doctor in front of him in fear and asked him to save him. The scene became chaotic, and cries and shouts kept intertwining. Constable Wang frowned and suddenly shouted, "Quiet! Anyone who makes any more noise will be thrown out." The hall instantly fell silent, but everyone looked at Shao Qingyuan with hatred in their eyes. Shopkeeper Pan was instantly smug, but Shao Qingyuan looked at him as if he was a fool. After a while, he took out something from his pocket and asked him, "Do you know what this is? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 10:18. What happened? Shopkeeper Pan was stunned for a moment. He blinked and craned his neck to take a look. At first, he didn't quite understand, but after a while, his expression changed. How did you get this? What do you think?" Shao Qingyuan looked at him coldly. Someone beside him could not see it clearly and did not understand. He quickly asked, "What is that?" Constable Wang explained coldly, "That's a fish talisman. All the officials in my dynasty have this to prove their identity. Young Master Shao is an imperial physician, so he naturally has one too." Fish talismans? All the imperial court's officials had them? Does that mean he's real? Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they looked at Shopkeeper Pan angrily. "What's wrong with you? This is our first time getting vaccinated. You're still spouting nonsense here and making us worry." "Constable Wang, I'm afraid this person has ulterior motives. Hurry up and arrest him." Shopkeeper Pan shook his head. "How is that possible? How could a person enter the capital and become an imperial physician in such a short time?" He grabbed the fish talisman from Shao Qingyuan's hand and looked at the words engraved on it. His name and address were all there, and they were all correct? But Shao Qingyuan took the fish talisman. "Get lost." Shopkeeper Pan subconsciously took a small step back. Constable Wang went forward and grabbed him. He sneered and said, "Do you think our lord is a muddle-headed official? This concerns the lives of millions of people. How can we hand such an important matter to him without confirming young Master Shao's identity? Young Master Shao came from the capital and is escorted by the Imperial guards sent by the Emperor. No, there were no Imperial guards, but words had to be said beautifully. Shopkeeper Pan took 2 more steps back, feeling flustered. The others present pointed at him, making him panic. Constable Wang grabbed him and walked out. This is the Emperor's decree. You clearly have ulterior motives for doubting young Master Shao. Come, follow me to the government office. No, my lord, please spare me. I really didn't. I misunderstood. Constable Wang didn't listen and dragged him out. Tell the prefecture magistrate if it's a misunderstanding. Shopkeeper Pan burst into tears on the spot. He had already been to jail once and did not want to go again. His begging voice became more urgent, but it was also getting further and further away. After the voices could no longer be heard, Shao Qingyuan said to everyone, "It's all right. Continue." Everyone present now firmly believed in Shao Qingyuan. He was a true imperial physician who could take out fish talismans and could be trusted. Shao Qingyuan pinched the fish talisman in his hand and narrowed his eyes. This fish talisman was given to him by the Emperor. Since he had to take on the mission of Xuanhe Prefecture's cowpox vaccination, he had to be given some necessary things to avoid many troubles. It seemed that the Emperor's consideration was right. This fish talisman had really saved him from trouble. He walked around the hall and saw that the doctors were familiar with it. After seeing that there were no problems, he quickly left the million gold pavilion silently from the back door. There was a carriage parked outside the back door. There were guards on both sides. When they saw Shao Qingyuan, no one stopped him. They let him walk to the carriage and jumped up. 2 people were sitting in the carriage and talking softly. When they heard the commotion, they immediately turned to look at him. What's going on with Shopkeeper Pan? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1019, Found Money? The person who spoke was Qin Wenjing, who should have stayed in the county city. Shao Qingyuan frowned and said, "It should be someone who knew me in the past. I don't remember him." The prefecture magistrate waved his hand. "I've already sent someone to investigate. Do you think he's the person who will sabotage the cowpox vaccination?" "It doesn't seem like it." Qin Wenjing lowered his eyes and pondered. If someone really wanted to cause trouble during this vaccination, they shouldn't have found such a person. He looks a little like a fool. Shao Qingyuan agreed with this. It's not him, but after Shopkeeper Pan's commotion, I realized that someone's behavior is very strange. Who is it? Qin Wenjing asked anxiously. The vaccination this time was too big. It was very likely that someone would make a big fuss, especially in the Xuanhe Prefecture and Fengkai County. Qin Wenjing had stayed in Fengkai County for a few years with the Emperor's secret mission. It could be seen that Fengkai County was hiding a huge secret. Unfortunately, although they had already found out about the Tao father and son, the Tao father and son were not important figures. Qin Wenjing had to find out all the ferocious beasts hidden in the county prefectural city. Therefore, this time, other than asking Shao Qingyuan to tell Qin Wenjing about the cowpox vaccination mission, the Emperor also gave him a secret decree to pay attention to the person who secretly attacked him. Even though Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong did not want to participate in these things, but ever since Gu Yundong handed the cowpox vaccination method to Qin Wenjing, many things were no longer under their control. Could Shao Qingyuan refuse to help the Emperor? Therefore, even though Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan did not want to be involved in these matters, they had no choice. The only thing they could do now was to resolve the matter as soon as possible so that they could live their lives comfortably. There was a short man who was about 20 years old. He was very strange, Shao Qingyuan said. At that time, Shopkeeper Pan bumped into him. He seemed to be holding something in his hand, but after he was hit, he immediately hid it in his sleeve. Qin Wenjing and Prefecture Magistrate Dai looked at each other. In that case, do we have to thank Shopkeeper Pan? Shao Qingyuan, do whatever you want. He alighted from the carriage. Next was Qin Wenjing and the Prefecture Magistrate's business. The short man probably did not know that he had been exposed, so as long as Qin Wenjing sent someone to follow him, he would probably gain something. He returned to the million gold pavilion and looked at the busy crowd. He sighed. He missed Yundong. At that moment, Gu Yundong had already arrived at Gus. From the moment he got off the carriage, he saw the happy and busy Zhuangzi. He looked so excited that he did not even notice that Gu Yundong had come in. It was only when Su Changshun called boss that he quickly turned around. Gu Yundong sized him up from head to toe. You look energetic. Are you used to working in the prefectural city? Yes, everything is fine. Zhuangzi nodded repeatedly. Gu Yundong walked to the side and sat down. Zhuangzi immediately poured her a cup of tea. His footsteps were light. It seemed like he had really encountered a good thing. You picked up money? Why are you so happy? No. Zhuangzi immediately shook his head. He thought for a moment and said softly, Boss, I went out of the city to see my parents yesterday. Yes, and then? He was so happy meeting his parents. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1020, Divination. Zhuangzi chuckled. Then, when I came back, I met someone. He turned around and saw that Su Changshun was busy working. He lowered his voice even more. Boss, do you know what that person does? I don't know. Why are you being so mysterious? Can't you tell me everything at once? Zhuangzi's smile became even more wretched. That person is a fortune teller. Boss, that fortune teller said that I'm in luck this year and might be able to get what I want very soon. Boss, you know that I want to become a shopkeeper as soon as possible. I think that's what the fortune teller meant. Gu Yundong was speechless. If you want to be the shopkeeper, it doesn't seem to be up to the fortune teller, but me, right? Of course. However, when the fortune teller said that, I immediately guessed that the boss fortune was flourishing this year. You would definitely open another shop. Wouldn't I be able to become the shopkeeper then? Gu Yundong was speechless. He was trying to curry favor with her. But for some reason, she felt that it was quite pleasant to the ear. She looked at Zhuangzi and couldn't help but smile. Not bad. If that's the case, the fortune teller is quite accurate. Since you're going to be the shopkeeper this year, have you started to consider your marriage? Gu Yundong probed. Unexpectedly, Zhuangzi laughed lewdly again. Gu Yundong silently covered his eyes. Please don't smile like this when you're the shopkeeper in the future. Otherwise, the customers will be scared away by you. When Zhuangzi was done laughing, he said, that fortune teller actually not only calculated my fortune, but also my luck with women. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Oh. He said that my luck with women is pretty good this year. If nothing goes wrong, he'll be engaged this year. Gu Yundong was speechless. Which family was this fortune teller from? In that case, this bastard finally had a relationship line and was no longer focused on developing his career? It was good. This way, it would be more convenient for her to help Mother Su find out. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Then, have you taken a fancy to any girl? Zhuangzi frowned. He really didn't. He could not help but sigh. Boss, you don't know. Ever since I became a shop assistant, my ultimate goal was to become a shopkeeper. That's why I worked especially hard. Every day, I learned how to read and count from the shopkeeper. I learned so much that my mind was filled with the words on the account book. When the guest came, I didn't even have the time to see if it was a man or a woman. I first thought about what they might buy and how much they could pay. When I returned home at night, I only ate and counted the money. I didn't have the chance to see any girl. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Have you gone mad? Zhuangzi looked pitiful. Actually, before he became the shopkeeper, he had never thought of getting a wife. If it was in the past, he would not have taken the fortune teller's words seriously. But wasn't he living with his sister and brother-in-law now? As a single man, he watched Jiang Bao and Lan Huar being clingy every day who felt that there were only the two of them in the world. He was too agitated. Especially when he called out to them, the two of them acted as if they did not hear him. Zhuangzi was so angry that he was unwilling to go home several times and lived in the backyard of this shop. Therefore, he felt that he had to start thinking about marriage. Gu Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1021. I'll secretly show him. Xuanhe chuckled again. Boss, you know a lot of people. Let me see if there's a girl suitable for me. Let me think. Gu Yundong frowned and seemed to ponder carefully for a while. After a while, he suddenly looked up. There really is a very good girl. Xuanze's eyes lit up. He automatically sat down on the chair beside her and eagerly handed her a cup of tea. Really? Which girl? Boss, tell me quickly. This was Gu Yundong's first time trying to matchmake someone. She was afraid that if he did not say it well, someone would mess it up. For some reason, he was a little nervous. You've seen Su Changshan's sister, right? Xuanze blinked, then blinked again, looking confused. He has a sister? He had only seen Changshan's mother. About the sister. He vaguely heard Changshan mention that he had a younger sister in his family. However, he had never seen her before. After hearing it, he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. After all, he was a man. It was not appropriate for him to ask about girls. Gu Yundong, you've worked with him for so long, Lan Huar has worked with Su Qing for so long, and you've even been to the Su family twice. You actually don't know that Su Changshan has a sister? Gu Yundong was stunned. What was in your mind every day? Was there only money and the goal of becoming a shopkeeper? Xuanze was smart and immediately reacted. He immediately asked excitedly, the girl the boss wants to introduce to me is Changshan's sister? Yes. Gu Yundong glanced at him from the corner of her eye and said speechlessly, his sister's name is Su Qing. She's now working as a female employee at New Tea Pavilion. It can be considered that she has something in common with you. Of course. Xuanze thought of his sister and Jiang Bao. These two seemed to have endless things to talk about every day. He was instantly interested. To be able to enter New Tea Pavilion as a female worker, she must be smart and good-looking. Still, boss, this Changshan family is from the prefectural city. Although I'm now a shop assistant in the prefectural city, I'm still a country bumpkin. Would they like me? Well, this was a very realistic problem. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Mother Su has taken a fancy to you. However, she could not let him know. Otherwise, this kid's tail would be raised to the sky. She touched her chin and said, the Su family doesn't seem to care about these things, but there's something I have to tell you clearly. Xuanze saw that her expression instantly turned serious and hurriedly sat upright. Boss, tell me. You know that Su Changshan was accused of stealing, right? I know. Speaking of this, Xuanze was still a little angry. Changshan is too honest. If it were me, I would rush over and tear down their door. If you accuse me of stealing, I'll steal something for you to see. Gu Yundong covered his face. All right. You're amazing. She continued. Su Qing was once engaged, but that family cancelled the engagement because Su Changshan was a stealer. They were afraid of implicating their reputation. Do you mind? Xuanze didn't even think about it. Why would I mind? It's clearly the other party's fault. Sister Su is lucky that she didn't marry into such a family. Otherwise, her life would be ruined. Gu Yundong nodded in satisfaction. Although this kid was a little wretched, he was not a pedantic person. She raised her head and looked behind Xuanze. Did you hear that? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1022. You don't have to be so flattery. Xuanze was stunned. He suddenly turned around and saw Su Changshan standing behind him. Xuanze suddenly felt a little awkward. It didn't seem right to discuss his sister behind his back. But at this moment, Su Changshan also looked embarrassed. He didn't eavesdrop on purpose. When he suddenly heard his sister's name, he was a little concerned. Coincidentally, there were no customers in the shop at the moment, so he came over to see what was going on. Unexpectedly, just as he stood at the back, he heard Xuanze's words. For a moment, Su Changshan felt very complicated. However, she quickly realized that the boss was going to introduce Xuanze to his sister. He suddenly looked up at Gu Yundong. Boss, my sister, Su Qing has a good personality and is diligent. Zhuangzi is also smart and protective of his family. You've been with him for some time. What do you think? Su Changshan felt that Zhuangzi was very loyal and had a good character. He was worth entrusting life to. In that case, it seemed like it was not a bad idea for his sister to marry him. Seeing that Su Changshan didn't say anything after thinking for a long time, Zhuangzi was a little anxious. He immediately put his arm around Su Changshan's shoulder and said, "Don't worry. I'm not good at anything else except being protective. Your sister will definitely not regret marrying me." Gu Yundong held her forehead. Wait a minute. Don't be hasty. It's not up to the two of you to decide on this matter. I think that at the very least, you have to meet Su Qing and both of you think that the other party is not bad. Only then can you sit down and talk about this marriage, right? Su Qing still didn't know about this. It was useless for them to say anything. Zhuangzi hurriedly nodded. Yes. Boss, let's go over now. Now? The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She glanced at him. Are you going to look at her dressed like this? Zhuangzi looked down. He was wearing the uniform of the shop. He had just moved the goods, and his clothes were still a little dirty. It did not seem appropriate. If he went to see her like this, she might think that he was a sloppy person who did not like cleanliness. Then, you'll get Lan Huar to make me a new set of clothes later. It'll go in 2 days? Gu Yundong nodded and looked at Su Changshan. Go back and ask Su Qing what she thinks. He paused and added, tell her in front of your mother. I understand, boss. Gu Yundong glanced at Zhuangzi, who hurriedly said, my parents are fine. They said that as long as I'm willing, they'll come and propose marriage later. Gu Yundong did not say anything else. They agreed to meet the shop. At that time, Su Qing could take the opportunity to visit Su Changshan and talk to Zhuangzi. If both parties were satisfied, Gu Yundong would not have anything to do after that. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Indeed, it was too difficult to be a matchmaker. She stood up. All right, continue working. I'll go to the pharmacy to take a look. Zhuangzi hurriedly sent her out. Boss, take care. Be careful of these steps. Don't splash water on the ground. Gu Yundong was speechless. She shook her body violently. Did he have to be so obsequious? Tong Shuitao could not take it anymore. She quickened her pace and followed Gu Yundong. The pharmacy was not far away. The two of them turned 2 alleys and arrived. As soon as she entered, Jiang Bao happened to be standing behind the counter, pounding the medicine carefully. As for Ah Zhu, he was tidying up the medicine cabinet. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1023. Name change. The two of them stopped when they saw Gu Yundong enter. Miss, why are you here? Gu Yundong was about to speak when she saw Ah Go and Ah Shu walk out of the backyard. Ah Mao was not around and was at the Million Gold Pavilion with Shao Qingyuan. Dr. Xiong wasn't around either. A medical fanatic like him was naturally the most passionate about learning cowpox vaccination. Therefore, at this moment, he was among the hundreds of doctors who were vaccinating people. However, when he was not around, the business of the pharmacy was exceptionally good. It was probably because the vaccination was about to take place in the entire city. There were still some people who were not at ease and secretly came to the medicine shop to buy medicine. If the vaccination failed, at least there would be a way out, right? Therefore, when Dr. Xiong was not around, Ah Go and Ah Shu came to help. Miss, are you looking for us? Why don't you go to the backyard and rest first? No, thank you. Gu Yundong shook her head. I'm just looking for She stopped mid-sentence. She recalled how Shao Yuan's father had addressed the guy. Dr. Pig? She suddenly couldn't call Ah Zhu's name. She paused and could only point at him, who was coming down the wooden ladder after closing the medicine cabinet. She said, come down first. I have something to ask you. Ah Zhu was confused and hurriedly walked over. What's the matter? Gu Yundong glanced at Ah Go and Ah Shu again and asked with a frown, what were your original names? The three of them looked at each other. Miss, why are you suddenly asking this? I'm just thinking that you're not young anymore. In 2 to 3 years, you'll have to get married. In the future, when you walk around outside, you can't let people continue to call you Ah Zhu, Ah Go, Ah Shu, and Ah Mao. People will think that they've entered the zoo. Why don't you change to your previous names? The three of them were stunned and paused, but they fell silent. Yundong was a little surprised. Of course, it's okay if you don't want to change. I'm just making a suggestion. No, miss, it's not that we don't want to change. It's just that, Ah Zhu hesitated for a moment before denying softly. Jiang Bao listened from the side and immediately said, I think it's good to change your names. 2 days ago, there were customers who came in to buy medicine. They directly called Ah Zhu Mr. Pig. Yundong was speechless. It turned out that Shao Yuan's father was not the only one who called him Dr. Pig. Ah Zhu glared at Jiang Bao, who raised his eyebrows smugly. After a long time, Ah Shu, who was the oldest among the three, said, Miss, we actually want to change our names, but we don't want to change back to our previous names. If possible, can you tell the boss to let us have the surname Shao? Why? Yundong was surprised. Ah Shu smiled bitterly and said, We're all orphans without parents. When the 4 of us lived together, we agreed to be brothers and relatives. That's why we randomly named Ah Mao, Ah Shu, Ah Zhu, and Ah Go. We felt that this was more intimate, as if we were a family. If we switched to our original names with different surnames, we would feel that we have become orphans again. Yundong was shocked. She did not expect them to think that way. She immediately regretted her suggestion. Although names didn't mean anything, the meaning was completely different for Ah Zhu and the others. Jiang Bao also stopped pounding the medicine. His expression became more serious and he did not speak anymore. Yundong opened her mouth and was about to say that it was fine when she heard Ah Go speak in embarrassment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1024. I want to be surnamed Shao, Miss. Actually, we're following Young Master now. Young Master treats us as his family. Previously, we've also thought about whether we can follow Young Master's surname. We're just afraid that we'll climb up Young Master's social ladder. They used to have parents and brothers, and they even had a good relationship. However, ever since their parents were gone, it was as if they were the only ones left in the world. What family, clansmen, and friends? Other than hitting them when they were down, who had reached out to them? The 4 of them only had each other. They were each other's family and friends. It was only when they met Shao Qingyuan and Yundong that they gradually felt a sense of belonging. However, they had never thought of changing back to their original names. They even vaguely rejected it. Yundong understood and immediately smiled. What does it matter? I'll make the decision. Your surname will be Shao. However, you can think about your names yourself. We'll confirm it later when Brother Shao is free. The 3 of them were instantly happy. There was a hint of excitement on their faces. Really? Yes. Yundong nodded heavily. Actually, before Shao Qingyuan met her, wasn't he also alone? This was quite good. Jiang Bao was also happy for them. Seeing that the atmosphere was good, he immediately waved his hand and said, I'm here to give you names. Let me tell you, my name was changed by myself when I was 10 years old. It sounds good, right? The 3 of them were speechless. No, they refused. Seeing that the matter was settled, Yundong began to talk about serious matters. I came here today to look for Ah Zhu. I want him to go to Xingtao Street to help Shao Yuan and the others get vaccinated first. Ah Zhu was immediately interested. Sure, no problem. I'm better at vaccinating than those doctors from the Million Gold Pavilion today. I'll go now. After saying that, he turned around and ran into the house to get his first aid kit. Yundong was afraid that Shao Yuan's family was not familiar with them, so he asked Tong Shuitao to accompany them. She went back to the small courtyard first. 2 days later, Zhuangzi went to the shop in a neat set of new clothes. At noon, Su Qing came to deliver food to Su Changshan before the 2 of them met. Yundong did not know what exactly they had talked about, but the next day, Zhuangzi ran to his parents and went to the Su family to propose marriage. Yundong was invited as a witness. Zhuangzi and Su Qing's marriage was decided in just a few days. The cowpox vaccination in the Million Gold Pavilion was also in full swing. The news of shopkeeper Pan's commotion that day still spread. Many people knew that the imperial physician sent by the capital was from Fengkai County. However, they were not sure if it was true or not. At this moment, a new title was hung outside the door of Fortune Tea House. Everyone pointed at the title and discussed animatedly. Some people couldn't wait to ask the boss for an answer. The news of cowpox vaccination had already spread throughout the prefectural city. Almost everyone knew about it. Therefore, there were twice as many customers in Fortune Tea House as last time. Shao Qingyuan hadn't returned for a few days. The Million Gold Pavilion had a place for him to stay in. Those who had finished receiving the vaccination couldn't leave for the time being. They had to stay in the Million Gold Pavilion for a few days. As an attending physician, Shao Qingyuan naturally had to deal with unexpected situations at any time. Fortunately, Shao Qingyuan had seen the traces of the person who wanted to cause trouble that day. Now that Qin Wenjing had found out, the subsequent vaccinations were very peaceful. However, on this day, 7 or 8 people suddenly came to look for Gu Yundong outside the city. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1025. Various versions of rumors. Just as the Gu family was about to eat dinner, there was a knock on the door of the small courtyard. Lu Xing was busy. Gu Dafeng went to open the door and was stunned when she saw the people outside. Why are you here? When Gu Yundong heard the sound, she quickly got up and walked out. She was also surprised to see the person at the door. Uncle Chen? It was the village chief of Yongfu village, Qin Liang. Behind him were the other villagers. There were men and women. Including Qin Liang, there were a total of 8 people. Coupled with Chen Jinbao, who had brought them here, the front of the courtyard was filled with people. The group of people looked travel-worn. Gu Yundong quickly stepped aside. Have you just arrived at the prefectural city? Come in first. We can talk later. Chen Liang wiped his face. All right, sorry to disturb you. Gu Yundong led the group into the central room. Gu Dajiang also came out and poured them sugar water. The group of people took a big sip. Their entire bodies were warm before they slowly exhaled. After catching his breath, Chen Liang said, Brother Gu Yundong, we didn't mean to disturb you at this time. There are really some things that we're very anxious about and we want to clarify. Gu Yundong and Gu Dajiang looked at each other. Just ask. We heard that the capital has already found a way to resolve the smallpox. Now, the imperial physician is doing vaccination for everyone in the prefectural city. What kind of vaccination is that? Also, the imperial physician isn't going to the county city, right? Gu Yundong was stunned. She did not expect them to ask about this. Before she could answer, another villager beside her asked impatiently, That's right, Yundong. The imperial physician only treats people in the prefectural city and doesn't care about the county city? Wouldn't our village have even less chances? Now, the entire Fengkai County knows about this. They said that the vaccination will end in 3 months. That won't do. If they don't care about us in 3 months, won't we only be waiting for death? Why won't they vaccinate us? We heard that we have to go to the government office to register first, but we've asked. The number of people registered in the government office has long exceeded 3 months. We don't have a share at all. As soon as Qin Liang spoke, the people behind started talking at once. Among the people who came this time, other than Qin Liang, there was also the 6th grandfather's grandson, as well as those who had a good reputation in the village and could speak. The few women were also smart and capable. It seemed that everyone attached great importance to this vaccination. However, as the news spread, there were all kinds of versions. Clearly, everyone only knew a little. There was nothing they could do about it. Although the storyteller in the county city had explained the matter clearly, not everyone would go to the tea houses to listen. This caused everyone to hear different parts of the story. Still, Gu Yundong could not help but look at Chen Jinbao. Chen Jinbao was going back and forth between the prefectural city and Yongfu village to deliver goods. He should know about the prefectural city. Why did he not explain it clearly? Chen Jinbao touched his nose and laughed dryly. He didn't know how to explain. On the other hand, Chen Liang glared at him and said to Gu Yundong, "We thought that this kid had stayed in the prefectural city for a long time and should know clearly, but we didn't expect him to know nothing. Or maybe he's simply muddle-headed and is becoming more and more unclear. I was afraid that he would delay the matter, so I went to the prefectural city to ask around." However, he was unfamiliar with the prefectural city. When he arrived, he subconsciously came to look for the Gu family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1026. It'll bring you to listen to stories Chen Jinbao sighed secretly. It wasn't that he couldn't explain it clearly, but there were some things that he couldn't say. He knew about the cowpox vaccination method, but what shocked him was that Shao Qingyuan was actually the Imperial physician from the capital. He could not tell his parents about this at all. After all, he had to keep this a secret from the beginning. What if he said it and ruined the Prefecture magistrate's plans? Therefore, when Chen Liang asked, he only said that everyone in Yongfu village would be vaccinated and told him not to worry. When Chen Liang asked him why he was so sure, Chen Jinbao couldn't tell him the reason. After a few times, Chen Liang did not believe him and insisted on coming over personally to take a look. He was a responsible village chief. It didn't matter if he didn't get the vaccination, but there were so many people in the village. He was the village chief. Who would stand up for such a big matter if he didn't? He had to learn everything. Gu Dajiang was very emotional when he heard that. He patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, it's not as serious as you think. The method to prevent smallpox is true, and the emperor sent people to the prefectural city to inoculate people. However, it's definitely not just the prefectural city. The county cities, towns, and villages won't fall behind." Chen Liang's eyes lit up. "Really?" Gu Yundong replied, "Of course it's true. If Uncle Chen doesn't believe me, there's a very popular storytelling show tomorrow at Fortune Tea House. I've reserved a table. It'll bring you to listen to it then. How about that?" Chen Liang was stunned and quickly shook his head. "How can I have the mood to listen to other people's stories at a time like this?" The others present were interested. The storytelling shows in the prefectural city were very exciting. It was rare for them to come, so they had to take a look and listen. They originally wanted to find out more and buy something to bring back before telling others about the flourishing scenery in the prefectural city. However, after hearing Chen Liang's words, they could only lower their heads in disappointment and not express their opinions. Gu Yundong smiled and said, "Uncle Chen, don't be in a hurry to refuse. Didn't you say that you don't understand the cowpox vaccination method or if Yongfu village will be included? Go and listen tomorrow and you'll understand everything." Is that so? He could understand just because he heard about it? He couldn't help but look at Gu Dajiang, who nodded. Listen to Yundong. That's right. His unfathomable look calmed Chen Liang down a little. He knew that Yundong was much more reliable than his son. That's fine. Chen Liang stood up. "Sorry to disturb you today. Well, leave first. I'll go with you to Fortune Tea House tomorrow." Gu Yundong hurriedly asked, "It's already so late. You haven't eaten yet, right? I'll get the kitchen to prepare a few more dishes. You can leave after eating. We've already brought some dry food. We've already eaten on the way. There's no need to trouble you. Go ahead and do your work. There's no need to send us off." Chen Liang was also very embarrassed to have come just in time for dinner. However, he had no choice. He was not the only one who could not wait. The others were the same, especially when they passed by the government office. They realized that there were many people waiting outside in the middle of the night. "Then where are you staying at night?" Gu Dajiang asked. Chen Liang said, "When we entered the city, we happened to meet Feng Danning and asked him to help book 2 large bunks in the inn. There's a place to stay." Feng Danning's business was very good now. When he came to the prefectural city last year, he also brought his wife and children over. Now that he had rented a small courtyard in the prefectural city, his days were getting better. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1027. Villagers, however, just as they finished speaking, there was a knock on the courtyard door. Feng Danning, who had just been mentioned, walked in with an ashamed expression and said to Chen Liang, "Village chief, I'm sorry." Chen Liang was stunned. "What's wrong?" "The large bunks are all gone." He asked many inns, but they all said that there were no more rooms. Not only were there no more large bunks, but there were also no more upper rooms or ordinary rooms. Chen Liang was surprised. There's no room in such a huge prefectural city? This was not the time of famine. Why? Gu Yundong had thought of it just now, but before she could say anything, Feng Danning returned. Looking at the anxious expressions of Chen Liang and the others, she said, "The prefectural city is currently doing cowpox vaccination, so many commoners came after hearing the news. Not only are there no more large bunks, but I'm afraid many of the courtyards that can be rented out are also gone." This was inevitable. There were many county cities under the Xuanhe Prefecture. Those who heard the news would definitely rush to the prefectural city to verify if the news was true. In particular, there were some wealthy families with many servants and guards. Most of these people lived in large bunks. Chen Liang and the others arrived a little late, so there were naturally no rooms. Then what should we do? Why don't we squeeze in dilapidated temples for the night? Someone suggested. There were also people who glanced at the Gu family's small courtyard, but they were soon disappointed. This place was too small, and there were so many people in the Gu family. It was better not to think about it. They were all from Yongfu village and had a good relationship with the Gu family. Gu Yundong would definitely not let them stay in a dilapidated temple. That would be too demeaning. Uncle Chen, Brother Shao and I have a courtyard at the back of our shops. There are still a few empty rooms now. If you don't mind, you can squeeze in first. There were originally 3 rooms in the backyard of Gus. Jing Gang was the shopkeeper and stayed in one. He had also prepared a room for Zhuangzi previously, but he, Jiang Bao, and the others rented a small courtyard outside. They only stayed for the night occasionally when they were on duty, so there were only simple bedding. The other one was prepared for Qin Bao and the others. It was relatively large. The backyard of Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy was bigger. Now, Ah Zhu and the others were living there. There were also 2 empty rooms. There were 4 rooms, so there was no problem with 9 people living there. Chen Liang still felt a little apologetic. Isn't this too troublesome? We're from the same village. We should help each other. Uncle Chen, you've helped me a lot in the past. These are all small matters. The matter was settled. Qin Jinbao knew the location of the shop and Gu Yundong let him bring it over. This was the first time they had seen Gu Yundong's shop in the prefectural city. They looked at Gus, which was much bigger than the county city shop, and their eyes flashed with surprise. In the end, it was decided that the 3 women would stay in the empty room at Gus. The 3 of them would share a room. Chen Jinbao and Chen Liang stayed in the room that Zhuangzi occasionally stayed in. The remaining 4 men took a few more steps to Shao Qingyuan's medicine shop. This way it was quite spacious. At least, it was much more comfortable than large bunks in the inn. Chen Liang was still a little emotional. When the Gu family's girl first brought her mother and younger siblings to Yongfu village, I thought that their family would probably have a difficult time without an adult man. I didn't expect that their family would have the best life in the entire village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1028. Bringing them for storytelling. Qin Jinbao was a little proud. After all, Gu Yundong was his boss now, right? It's not just her family. Ever since she came, how many people in Yongfu village have been living a good life? In the past, everyone had to go to the city to find work in the winter. Not to mention that it was difficult to find work. Even if they found it, they would work hard for 2 months. That salary wouldn't even be enough to bring them home for the new year. Now, many people are envious of our village. Who doesn't have fish and meat for the new year? Chen Liang smiled. That's right. If it wasn't for the Gu family, we would probably have to squeeze in the dilapidated temple for the night if we came to the prefectural city now. Perhaps there wouldn't even be a place for them to stay. The father and son chatted for a while before resting. The people in the other rooms were also talking about the Gu family. This was their first time in the prefectural city. Although they had the village chief Chen Liang and Chen Jinbao to lead them, they were still extremely nervous. It was only when they entered the small courtyard and saw the Gu family that they felt at ease. Now, in this unfamiliar place, there was a comfortable place to rest. It was better than anything to be able to sleep peacefully. The Gu family, on the other hand, was still the same. They rested early after dinner. The next day, Gu Yundong brought Madame Yang and Yongfu out. The marks on the little girl's body were gone. These days, she had been staying in her room and had not even gone out of the courtyard. She was bored to death. Gu Yundong wanted to take her out to relax and listen to some books. Gu Dajiang was going to the academy, Gu Dafeng was going to the market, and Bianhan was going to carve, so only the three of them and Tong Shuitao went out. The group of them went to Gus first. When they arrived, the others were already there. At this moment, they were about to help organize the goods when Zhuangzi chased them to the backyard. We're already familiar with the job. We won't find the goods if you guys are moving them around. Go to the backyard and rest. Don't stay here and get in the way. The shop is only so big. There are so many of you. Chen Liang patted him. You brat. However, he still brought his people to the backyard. Gu Yundong went straight to the backyard to look for them. Seeing that they could not stay idle and were helping to clean the backyard and wipe the tables, he could not help but laugh. Uncle Chen, have you eaten breakfast? They've all eaten. Jinbao said that there's a bun shop over there. We each bought 2 big buns. There's quite a lot of stuffing, but it's expensive. It costs 2 copper coins each. In our county city, it only costs 1 copper coin. Although the prefectural city was good, big, and prosperous, people without savings really could not live here. Everything was expensive. Seeing that it was about time, Gu Yundong said to them, "Let's go then. It's about time to go over now." The few of them immediately stood up. Some of them even looked at their clothes carefully and were relieved to see that they were not wrinkled. Fortune Tea House was still some distance away from Gus. When they arrived, they realized that the entire tea house was filled with people. Even the entrance was crowded. They could not pass through. Oh my God, the business of this tea house is too good. There are so many customers. A woman surnamed Wan behind Chen Liang looked at the scene in front of her and spoke in shock. Gu Yundong looked around and saw that the waiter had indeed made an aisle at the door. She quickly led her people over. The waiter recognized her. "Miss Gu, you're here? Please come in." Gu Yundong had booked a private room early and led her men inside. The people outside the door looked at them enviously. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1029. It's actually someone from our Xuanhe Prefecture. There were still many people in the tea house. They only heaved a sigh of relief when they reached the private room on the 2nd floor. Why are there so many people? It's so crowded that I almost can't breathe. Everyone wiped the sweat off their foreheads and tidied their clothes. Gu Yundong asked the waiter to serve 2 pots of tea and some dishes and snacks before letting everyone sit down. He said to Chen Liang and the others, "There aren't so many people usually. Isn't the content of today's story attractive? That's why there are so many people." Chen Liang was surprised. "You said yesterday that they were talking about cowpox vaccination, right? Didn't you say that you were done? Why haven't you gotten tired of hearing it after so many days?" "The cowpox vaccination is over. There's still more to come. You'll understand when you hear it later." Chen Liang nodded, his interest piqued. He used to go to the tea house in the county city to listen to books, but at that time he would squat outside the door and listen attentively. This was the first time he sat in a private room on the 2nd floor of the prefectural city and even drank tea and ate snacks. This feeling was quite novel. If he felt this way, the others felt the same. They didn't dare to drink tea and just looked downstairs. Yunka was still like a little hamster. She wolfed down some braised meat. When she looked up and realized that no one was eating anything, she thought for a moment and came down from the table. She distributed a piece to each of them. Then, she nodded in satisfaction and continued to climb onto the chair to eat. Gu Yundong stroked her head and heard a commotion downstairs. He's out. Mr. Fan is out. Everyone be quiet. As expected, there was silence downstairs. The people in the private room also craned their necks to look down. Liang even stuffed the braised meat in his hand into his mouth. He widened his eyes and looked at the gentleman who had walked to the stage downstairs. He looked exceptionally elegant in his long robe. The storyteller's face was flushed. He walked to the table and arranged the shocking wood and tea before saying slowly, "I've made everyone wait. I'm late. I'll apologize to everyone here first." He bowed slightly. The guests downstairs could not wait any longer. They waved their hands and said, "Mr. Fan, don't mind these etiquettes. Hurry up and start. We've been waiting for many days." That's right. Mr. Fan, let's get started. We really want to know who the warrior who invented the cowpox vaccination method is. Warrior? The corners of Yundong's mouth twitched. She coughed lightly and took a sip of tea. Downstairs, Mr. Fan's movements were still slow. It made one's heart itch to go up and speak for him. After a moment, they heard a loud bang from the shocking wood. The extremely sudden sound made the hearts of the few people in the private room tremble violently. Even their breathing became light. Following that, she heard Mr. Fan's high-pitched voice. "Speaking of which, last time, we said that someone had traveled thousands of miles to the capital and tried all means to send the cowpox vaccination method to the Song residents. It was through thousands difficulties and dangers that it was handed over to Imperial physician Song. Only then did thousands of people obtain this great blessing." Everyone was speechless. "You have a lot of thousands. If you want to know who this person is, you'll have to explain in detail." Mr. Fan slammed the wooden stick in his hand again, and a proud smile suddenly appeared on his lips. "What everyone didn't expect is that this person is actually from our Xuanhe Prefecture. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1030, Anger Vented. What? Everyone was shocked. "Mr. Fan, are you serious? This warrior who invented the cowpox vaccination method is from our Xuanhe Prefecture? Oh my god! It's actually someone from our side. There's such a talent in Xuanhe Prefecture. Haha, so it's our fellow countrymen. Our Xuanhe Prefecture is going to be famous. Mr. Fan, hurry up and say it. Maybe you'll say it. I even know this person." Mr. Fan looked at everyone's excited expressions with satisfaction. Not to mention them, even he was proud when he found out about this. If there was a capable person in his hometown, wouldn't he be proud? He laughed. Perhaps many people know this person's identity. Mr. Fan waved his hand. "Everyone knows about Shao's, right?" "That's right, Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy was called Shao's. After all, he and Yundong were engaged. No matter what, they had to follow each other. Her shop was called Gus, and his was called Shao's. It was so easy to remember. Moreover, they knew that they were a couple when they heard it. When everyone heard Shao's, they immediately lowered their heads and whispered. Some people present knew about Shao's, but some did not. However, in the private room on the second floor, Liang and the others were extremely familiar with this name. A few of them had stayed in the backyard of Shao's yesterday. The group of people looked at each other. In the end, they focused their gazes on Yundong. The latter pursed her lips. "Continue listening?" Downstairs, Mr. Fan's voice continued. "This Shao's was opened from Fengkai County to our Xuanhe Prefecture. The owner of the pharmacy, Shao Qingyuan, is a handsome and extremely smart person. Mr. Fan, could it be that this cowpox vaccination method was invented by Shao Qingyuan and Boss Shao?" Someone asked loudly. Mr. Fan laughed. "That's right. It's Boss Shao." The entire building exploded. Liang and the others upstairs were so shocked that their eyes could not move. What did they just hear? That cowpox vaccination method that could prevent smallpox was invented by Shao Qingyuan? How was this possible? Mr. Fan said, "Speaking of which, Boss Shao is really hiding his strength and is especially low-key. It's said that he has been interested in studying medicine since he was young. His medical talent is astonishing. Others have to memorize a medical prescription 30 to 50 times, but he memorized it after looking at it once. He can recognize those herbs that look similar after looking at them once. Let's just say that last year, there was a quack doctor scamming people in Liang County. Everyone knows that, right? That quack used weeds to replace medicinal herbs. He walked the streets and scammed the people in several villages. Even the master of a rich family fell for it and gave that quack doctor a lot of money for nothing. However, he didn't expect that retribution would come from the heavens. This person actually targeted Boss Shao's family. This Boss Shao runs a medicine shop, so he collects herbs everywhere. One of the herbs is very rare. Not to mention our prefectural city, even the capital might not have it. When Boss Shao heard that this quack had it, he wanted to buy it at a high price. He didn't expect this medicine to be fake. Boss Shao saw through it at a glance. Then, he realized that the herbs in this quack medicine basket were all weeds that looked similar to the original herbs. He directly got someone to send this quack to the officials so that the man wouldn't continue to harm the commoners. What do you think Boss Shao did to vent his anger? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1031. Unpretentious Reason, Satisfying. Someone immediately echoed, "Mr. Fan, you don't know, but I'm from the Jiao village. Back then, I saw with my own eyes that Boss Shao saw through that quack scheme and saved the lives of the entire village." Everyone turned to look at the person who spoke. That person wiped his tears. It's true. At that time, my son happened to catch a cold. In the end, that quack prescribed medicine. Not only did he not recover in 2 days, his condition even worsened. If not for young Master Shao, my son would have been killed by that quack. Mr. Fan nodded. That's right. Fortunately, young Master Shao appeared in time. Everyone instantly had a good impression of Shao Qingyuan. I didn't expect the owner of this Shao's to be so powerful. I've seen this Boss Shao before. He's very young. I couldn't tell that he has such ability at all. You don't know, but when Shao's opened, many doctors from the prefectural city went there. At that time, those doctors went crazy when they saw the herbs in the medicine shop. They said that they were all rare good herbs and wanted to buy them one by one. Moreover, they bought sacks of them. Really? Then shouldn't we go to Shao's in the future? Anyway, if I can't find the herbs in the future, I'll go to Shao's to take a look. Yundong, who was upstairs, had sharp ears. She vaguely heard some words and immediately smiled in satisfaction. How powerful was this advertisement? In the future, Brother Shao would not have to worry about business in his shop at all. Mr. Fan also looked satisfied. He took a sip of water and continued, "Young Master Shao is a low-key person. He never said anything even after doing such a good thing. He quietly opened a pharmacy and bought herbs. Someone asked him why he opened 2 pharmaceutical shops instead of being a doctor since he's so talented in medicine. Guess how young Master Shao replied? How did he reply? How would they know? However, since Mr. Fan wanted interaction, they would reluctantly cooperate. Someone guessed, did Boss Shao say that he's young and is afraid that everyone won't believe that his medical skills are good? I think Boss Shao must have said that he likes to solve difficult illnesses. Those minor illnesses and pains are too simple. He wants to solve those difficult illnesses that can't be solved for more than 1,000 years, such as this method to prevent smallpox, right? Everyone felt that what this person said made sense. After all, geniuses like to challenge those with difficulty. The corners of Mr. Fan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Boss Shao wasn't as noble as you made him out to be. He shook his head and said, No. Boss Shao said that he wants to earn money. He likes silver, so he wants to open a pharmacy and earn big money. Was it actually such an unpretentious and refreshing reason? Wasn't it a little vulgar? Upstairs, Yundong secretly snorted. Of course, it had to be more vulgar. Otherwise, what if you think that my brother Shao is a compassionate and soft-hearted person? What if you all come to buy medicine without giving him money? Wouldn't Brother Shao suffer a huge loss if they were to use moral blackmail? Previously, when someone heard Mr. Fan say that Boss Shao had exposed the quack doctor, they felt that he was a great benevolent person. They thought that if they didn't have money, they could go to his pharmacy and cry for medicine. Now that Mr. Fan had said this reason, someone sighed in disappointment, but someone asked loudly, "Mr. Fan, since Boss Shao doesn't like to be a doctor, why did he develop the cowpox vaccination method?" If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1032. Another good news, good question. Mr. Fan was shocked. It's definitely not a coincidence that Boss Shao developed this medical prescription. This Boss Shao has a subordinate. This subordinate has a particularly pitiful background. Initially, Boss Shao didn't know about it. He accidentally heard him mention it and found out that this person's family had all died of smallpox. That was why this subordinate was alone and drifted around until he met Boss Shao. Boss Shao had been with this subordinate for a long time, so they were like brothers. After knowing his background, he began to pay attention to smallpox. He thought that if there was a way to prevent this illness, no one would be as lonely and desolate as his subordinate from a young age in the future. He thought while he was eating, sleeping, or walking. In the end, he had a flash of inspiration. If people could get smallpox, what about animals? Pigs, cows, and sheep. What would happen if they were infected with smallpox? At that time, Boss Shao ran to the farm in the suburbs. He went to see the cows first and realized that cows would get cowpox. The men who had been raising cows would also get cowpox. The problem was that those who had been infected with cowpox no longer had smallpox. Don't you think this is rare? It turns out that those who had cowpox wouldn't have smallpox anymore. Boss Shao was extremely happy. This was a very important discovery. If it's true, wasn't this a way to prevent smallpox? However, Boss Shao was still worried. He's afraid that only the cows in our Xuanhe Prefecture had this effect. What if the cows in other places don't? In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, he went to Qingyuan Prefecture, Yongning Prefecture, Wanqing Prefecture, and other prefectural cities. The results confirmed that all the situations were the same. But that wasn't enough. If it hadn't been tested on human beings, then he couldn't be sure. At this moment, that subordinate of his volunteered to experiment on himself. Boss Shao didn't agree. What if something happened? In the end, this subordinate actually contracted the cowpox himself. Wow, the people below exclaimed. They did not expect this subordinate to have such courage. If it were them, they would definitely not dare to use such an unverified medical method. If they were not careful, they would even lose their lives. Mr. Fan wiped the corners of his eyes. This is called karma. Boss Shao went to find a way to prevent smallpox because of this subordinate. This subordinate returned the favor and trusted Boss Shao so much. He was willing to take the risk. What a touching brotherhood. Yundong was speechless. Why was this last sentence so strange? It felt like something was wrong. Everyone nodded repeatedly when they heard that. It was really rare to have such a deep brotherhood. Someone asked loudly, "Is that subordinate all right?" Without waiting for Mr. Fan to answer, the person beside him replied, "He must be fine. Otherwise, why would Boss Shao send this medical prescription to the capital?" Mr. Fan nodded. Indeed, that subordinate was fine. Boss Shao felt that this medical prescription was too precious and too important to the world, so he didn't care about staying at home for the new year. He rushed to the capital and handed it over to the head of the Imperial Hospital, Dr. Song. Everyone's blood boiled when they heard that. Boss Shao is too awesome. I'm proud to have such a fellow countryman. He has made a great contribution. He has brought honor to our Xuanhe Prefecture. Awesome. Mr. Fan nodded. That's right. Boss Shao is admirable. Here, I have good news for everyone. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1033. Trying to cut the line good news? Everyone craned their necks. The voices stopped, waiting for Mr. Fan to make the announcement. Some well-informed people had already guessed it. After all, someone had just said that the imperial physician in the Million Gold Pavilion was called Shao Qingyuan. In the past, he was just a poor boy in Fengkai County. Now that they thought about it, Shao Qingyuan was that Imperial physician. As expected, Mr. Fan laughed and said, because Boss Shao is from our Xuanhe Prefecture, he's the one who was sent by the Emperor to the Xuanhe Prefecture to inoculate everyone. The person who's most familiar with cowpox vaccination is our Boss Shao. Back then, when the second prince was inoculated with cowpox, Boss Shao was present the entire time and did it himself. Wow! When the people below heard this, they were even more excited. Boss Shao was the one who taught the Imperial physicians in the capital the cowpox vaccination method. Now that he had taught the doctors in the prefecture city the cowpox vaccination method, didn't that mean that these doctors were also very powerful? With this guarantee, what else was there to worry about? Someone suddenly thought of something and asked anxiously, since Boss Shao is from the Xuanhe Prefecture, in that case, he'll still be here in 3 months. We don't have to worry about him going to the capital? Many people heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. Especially those who did not have time to go to the government office to register, their eyes were closed and their faces were filled with relief. Unexpectedly, Mr. Fan shook his head. Of course not. Boss Shao came here on the Emperor's orders. The other Imperial physicians will stay for 3 months, and Boss Shao is no exception. Besides, the Xuanhe Prefecture's vaccination situation has to be reported to the capital. Boss Shao will still leave in 3 months. Ah! Everyone was instantly disappointed. Mr. Fan continued, besides, I just said that Boss Shao doesn't want to be a doctor. He still has to buy herbs everywhere. Why would he stay in the prefectural city for a long time? After a moment of silence, he changed the topic. Of course, everyone doesn't have to worry too much. Boss Shao will definitely teach the doctors in our prefecture city well. With him personally watching over them for 3 months, the doctors will definitely be very skilled. Although that was what he said, everyone still felt that it was best to finish the vaccination in the next 3 months. After all, Boss Shao was still present. If there was a problem, he definitely had the ability to solve it. There were also those wealthy families who had been watching. These people did not care about the 3-month deadline. After all, they had money and connections. Even if they had to pay a fee after 3 months, it did not matter. It did not matter if the Imperial physician left. They could still go to the capital and find a doctor in the capital to inoculate them. In their opinion, the Imperial physicians in the capital were definitely more brilliant than the Imperial physicians sent from the capital. Then, the physicians they taught were naturally more powerful than the ones in the prefecture capital. No matter what, they had to send someone to the capital to find out if the second prince's matter was true. They had to see if anything would happen to those who had been vaccinated. However, after hearing Mr. Fan's words, they were more or less anxious. The most powerful big shot was in the Xuanhe Prefecture. Why were they rushing to the capital? If this person really left in 3 months, it would be useless no matter how much money they had. Therefore, after this day, the rich families of Xuanhe Prefecture began to find ways to cut the queue. They wanted to be inoculated within these 3 months. It would be best if Shao Qingyuan could personally inoculate them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1034. Chen Liang and the others shocked Yundong was very satisfied with the reaction downstairs. This was also the reason why the tea house announced that the story was to be continued after they finished talking about the cowpox vaccination method. The last story was actually for the ordinary citizens to hear. These people cared about the deadline, connections, and money. This time, it was for these powerful families to hear. What they cared about was a safer and more reliable method. She believed that after so many days, the people they had sent to the capital to gather information should have returned. Knowing that the capital was also being vaccinated, they should be anxious. Yundong took a sip of tea calmly. However, the others in the private room were completely stunned. Chen Liang and the others were all in a daze as they stood there motionless. After a long time, Mr. Fan's heavy blow downstairs ended the story. Chen Liang and the others suddenly regained their senses. However, in the next moment, they all looked at Yundong excitedly. Their voices were trembling. Yundong, is what he said true? That cowpox vaccination method was created by Qingyuan? Yes, Gu Yundong nodded. At the side, Chen Jinbao finally heaved a sigh of relief and said to his father in dissatisfaction, "That's why I said that there's no need to be anxious. Our village will definitely be able to take turns. There's definitely no problem. You're still anxious with me and insisted on coming to the prefectural city personally. Aren't you afraid of exhaustion?" As soon as he finished speaking, Liang hit his head hard. "Your words are unclear. It would be strange if I wasn't anxious." After reprimanding his son, Liang suddenly chuckled again. "It's actually Qingyuan. Haha, it's actually Qingyuan. He discovered a way to prevent smallpox. In the future, there won't be any kids that can't be saved. We old things don't have to be afraid of being chased out of the house by our children if we get smallpox." He smiled and choked up again. "Good, this is great, this is really great." Chen Jinbao quickly said, "Father, do you think he'll chase you out of the house?" Liang acted as if he did not hear him at all. He cried and laughed at the same time. "Ah, our village has produced an impressive person. That kid is promising. He's too promising." Gu Yundong sighed with emotion. Liang was indeed worthy of his name. He could be considered a very conscientious village chief. When the others heard this, they could not help but nod repeatedly. They even said excitedly, "Yes, yes. I didn't expect Qingyuan to be the one who did this. From now on, our village will be famous. Our village has long been famous. Didn't you see how many people from the surrounding villages came when the Gu family's workshop was recruiting? But now it's even more famous. No wonder Qingyuan suddenly left before the new year. He was gone for a few months. So he went to the capital. Hey, did you guys hear what the storyteller said just now? He said that Qingyuan personally vaccinated the second prince. In that case, he has seen the emperor and the prince, right? Right? When everyone heard this, wasn't that so? The wolf cub whose parents didn't dote on him and didn't even have enough to eat had actually gone to the capital to see the emperor. How lucky was he? Madam One suddenly said, "Well, Qingyuan lived so hard in the past and no one helped him. Everyone in the village called him a wolf cub. Then, will he still inoculate us? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1035. The villagers regret. As soon as he said this, the private room instantly fell silent. Other than Liang, everyone else lowered their heads slightly. That's right. They all knew how tough Shao Qingyuan's life had been back then. Because he was cold to everyone, anyone who offended him would not have a good ending. When he attacked, it did not matter if they were children or old people. Therefore, the entire village avoided him, especially as parents. They warned their children to stay away from him. Shao Qingyuan was not the kind of person who would repay evil with kindness. He was cold to begin with, and he was completely willing to ignore the lives of the villagers. In an instant, all the villagers present regretted it. Liang sighed secretly and said, "Qingyuan isn't as petty as you think. Isn't our relationship eased now? If you really feel that you've let him down in the past, treat him better in the future and care more about him. If he needs any help, go and help him. This shouldn't be difficult, right?" The others hurriedly shook their heads. "It's not difficult, it's not difficult. We've long stopped treating him as a wolf cub." Really? This was true. Ever since Shao Qingyuan was engaged to Gu Yundong, he had become much more friendly. When the villagers called him on the way, he would reply. Moreover, after what happened at the Li family last time, everyone knew what kind of person old Master Li was. They felt more pitiful for Shao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong also said, "Brother Shao is busy, so he definitely can't help everyone in the village get vaccinated. However, there are still Ah Zhu, Dr. Xiong, and the old doctor from the county. Isn't the Li family going to hold a wedding soon? Brother Shao and I will go back for a few days. When the time comes, we'll bring Ah Zhu and the others back to help everyone get vaccinated before returning to the prefecture." Most of the people in Yongfu village were actually quite good. Although there were some *T stirrers, the cowpox vaccination was an order from the higher-ups. There was no need to cause more trouble. Hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't want Shao Qingyuan to do it himself. There were so many people in the village and it was too much work. However, with him around, they could finally calm down. On the other hand, Chen Liang was a little surprised. The Li family is holding a wedding. Are you going to participate? The second branch of the Li family didn't seem to have a good relationship with Shao Qingyuan, right? Not only him, but the others also had strange expressions. Gu Yundong nodded. Yes, we're going to attend. The Li family invited us. Coincidentally, we're also going to perform cowpox vaccination on everybody, so we'll make a trip to the Li family. Chen Liang felt that things were not that simple. Why would the Li family invite Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong out of the blue? However, Gu Yundong did not say much, so he did not ask further. In short, they would return from the prefectural city with good news. The storytelling downstairs had ended, and the guests left the tea house one after another. Although there were still some who stayed behind to discuss loudly, at least the road out was no longer blocked. Gu Yundong led Chen Liang and the others downstairs. After leaving the tea house, Chen Liang said, Yundong, it's all thanks to your care that we came this time. Since Qingyuan is busy, we can't disturb him. Now that we know that he's the Imperial physician from the capital, we're finally relieved. Everyone is waiting for our news in the village. We'll go back now. Gu Yundong asked, Are you leaving now? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1036, Gu Yundong's return to Yongfu village. Chen Liang nodded. Everything in this prefectural city is expensive. Let's not stay any longer. Gu Yundong looked behind him. Although Chen Liang had said so, there were still a few people behind him who wanted to say something but hesitated. It was obvious that they did not want to leave so quickly. That's right. It wasn't easy for them to come to the prefectural city, but they didn't go anywhere. They felt uncomfortable. Gu Yundong thought for a moment and said, It's getting late. Let's wait until tomorrow. If we leave at this hour, I'm afraid we'll have to stay in the wilderness at night. It's not safe either. Madame Wan, who was behind Chen Liang, hurriedly nodded. That's right. Let's stay for another night. It's rare for us to come to the prefectural city. We still want to buy something back. Another woman nodded. Yes. We still want to go to the market to take a look. I even promised my son to buy cakes for him in the prefecture capital. Now that they were living well, although they felt that everything in this prefectural city was expensive, they could still take out money to buy something to their liking. Chen Liang could only nod when he heard that. He didn't have much to buy. His son often came to the prefectural city and had bought everything he could. However, the prefectural city was worth taking a look around. At the thought of this, Chen Liang became excited. Gu Yundong originally wanted to show them around, but Madame Wan and the others rejected her. Do what you need to do. Let's find Daning's wife. She's very free. Although Feng Daning's wife had been brought to the prefectural city, there was nothing much to do. She only chatted with people outside all day. Yesterday, they had heard Feng Daning gossip so much that her mouth was blistering. Gu Yundong had so many things to do, so she was very busy. Besides, as a young lady, it was uncomfortable to accompany aunties like them to shop. Gu Yundong did not say much. After bringing them to Feng Daning's residence, she went to the Million Gold Pavilion to look for Shao Qingyuan. She promised him that she would visit him every day. Shao Qingyuan didn't have much time either. He came out to meet her and heard her talk about Chen Liang and the others coming over. Then, he returned to the Million Gold Pavilion to work. Chen Liang and the others left early the next morning. When Gu Yundong went to send them off, he saw that they were carrying bags of various sizes. They must have bought a lot of things. As soon as they left, Gu Yundong got busy. Zhuangzi and Su Changshan had already been vaccinated in Gus's shop. They would go home to rest for the next 2 days, so Gu Yundong personally came to the shop to take charge. A few days later, Su Qing and the others also got Ah Zhu to inoculate them. She then went to New Tea Pavilion to help. There were clearly fewer guests in New Tea Pavilion these few days. After all, such a big thing had happened in the city, and many young ladies from big families had already begun to be vaccinated. After the storyteller explained Shao Qingyuan's identity that day, More than half of the large families in the prefecture capital went to Shao's. Unfortunately, Shao Qingyuan had always been in the million gold pavilion. Only Jiangbao, Ah Zhu, and the others were in the pharmacy. As such, these people could only look for the prefecture magistrate and request to cut in line. After being put in a difficult position, the prefecture magistrate adjusted the daily limit of 200 patients, finally letting these people heave a sigh of relief. However, what they didn't know was that this was originally part of the prefecture magistrate's plan. There were 200 spots a day. How many people would there be by the 6-month deadline set by the emperor? Therefore, Prefecture Magistrate Dai posted another notice at the city gate, indicating that after repeated discussion, he had decided to follow the will of the people. In order to not let everyone be in a panic, the doctors would receive more people for vaccination every day when they still had the energy. But because of this, Shao Qingyuan was even busier. However, after half a month, he still walked out of the million gold pavilion. The Li family's wedding was in 2 days. Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan planned to return to Yongfu village. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1037, New Worker. This time, only Gu Yundong, Shao Qingyuan, Dr. Xiong, and Ah Zhu returned. The group of people traveled light and arrived at Fengkai County quite early. Just as they were about to enter the city, Gu Yundong asked the carriage to stop. She took out the makeup box from the carriage and tidied up her appearance and Shao Qingyuan's before changing her clothes. Then, the two of them alighted from the carriage and walked into the city. Shao Qingyuan's reputation had probably spread to Fengkai County long ago. They couldn't see him in the prefectural city, so they had probably already started waiting in the county city. They were hoping to have the luck to wait for Shao Qingyuan. Fortunately, he rarely interacted with others, so most people did not know what he looked like. However, just in case, it was better to disguise himself. The two of them entered the city and planned to go to Shao's first. As expected, when they passed by the county office, they saw that the entrance was filled with many people. Back then, there were 4 to 5 doctors in Fengkai County who went to the prefectural city to learn inoculation techniques from Shao Qingyuan. Later on, they inoculated people in the million gold pavilion for more than 10 days. When they completely mastered it and were familiar with it, they returned to Fengkai County and inoculated the people in the county. Therefore, like the prefectural city, there were many people waiting outside every day. Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan looked at each other. Without delay, they went straight to the pharmacy. The old doctor was not around. He was also one of the people who had gone to the prefectural city to learn cowpox vaccination. After returning, he had been helping people with vaccination in the county office. Now, there was only one newly recruited worker in the shop. This shop assistant was called Liang. He used to be a schoolboy in the medical center and knew some basic pharmacology. Later on, the medical center was run down by another medical center in the county city, so he lost his job. That was why he was recruited by Shao Qingyuan. He was diligent, but he was not as smart as Jiangbao. He was simply honest and obedient. When Liang Jianbao saw them coming over, he quickly came out to welcome them. "Boss, miss, why are you back at this time?" He was very happy. "Boss, you don't know, but now, everyone in the county is saying that you're the Imperial physician who invented the cowpox vaccination method. Our shop has been doing especially well recently, and many people have come to inquire about you. But don't worry, boss. I didn't say anything." Shao Qingyuan nodded and gave him a piece of paper. "Catch all the medicine on it first. I want to take it away." Okay. Liang Jianbao quickly took the paper and grabbed a few large bags of herbs according to the prescription on it. When he was done, he quickly handed it to Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan took the medicine bag and left. Liang Jianbao took 2 steps forward. When he disappeared, he suddenly slapped his head. I forgot to pour a glass of water for the boss and the lady. Brother Jiang clearly taught me before, but I forgot." He was extremely vexed, but Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan had already left the county. Along the way, they understood the situation in the county. After leaving the city gate, the two of them boarded the carriage again. It was a little late when they arrived at Yongfu village. Compared to the county city, Yongfu village was surprisingly calm. There was no one at the entrance of the village. They took the main road and returned home almost unimpeded. At this moment, no one in Yongfu village knew that the Shao Qingyuan they were so proud of had returned. The next day was the wedding day of the second son of the Li family, Li Zhihu and He Xiu. Second brother Li and his wife woke up early in the morning with a lot on their minds. They looked at the door nervously and expectantly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1038. Joyous event of the Li family. Li Dunzi and Madame Du were still not sure if Shao Qingyuan would return. After Madame Dong sent the letter, he did not reply to them. As for Chen Liang and the others, although they knew that Shao Qingyuan would return to the village in the next few days, they were not sure when. Moreover, on the way back, Chen Liang had warned the 7 people who had followed him to the prefecture capital that day to keep their mouths shut and not tell anyone that Shao Qingyuan had returned to attend second brother Li's wedding. Otherwise, when everyone found out, they would all come to Yongfu village to wait for him. If those powerful people from the county took Shao Qingyuan away, Yongfu village would definitely not have a chance. Therefore, although Madame Wan and the others wanted to show off, they could only endure it when they heard Chen Liang's serious words. However, they knew that Shao Qingyuan was coming to attend Li Zihu's marriage, so they came to the Li family early in the morning. Li Dunzi and his wife were very surprised. They had invited many people from the village, but many people had said that they were not free back then. Why were there so many people now? Moreover, they were villagers who were popular in Yongfu village. When his son set off to fetch the bride, even the village chief came over. Li Dunzi hurriedly welcomed him in, while Madame Du continued to wait at the door. When the villagers saw that Chen Liang had actually come to attend second brother Li's wedding, they were all shocked. Some people were curious, so they brought a few eggs and vegetables to congratulate him. The Li family was especially lively for a moment, causing Li Dunzi and his wife to heave a sigh of relief. The bridal escort team returned very quickly. The Li family specially borrowed an ox cart to pick up the bride. He Xiu sat on it with a red veil, but there was no joy on her face under the veil. Her back was sore from sitting all the way, and Lan Huar, who had just gotten married not long ago, was carried away by the big red sedan chair. He Xiu still had a deep impression of that scene back then. Now that she was getting married, it was fine if she did not have a bridal sedan chair. But this ox was even an old ox. She did not know if it was because it was not feeling well. As she pooped along the way, she almost could not help but come down and walk on her own. He Xiu was extremely depressed, but the ox cart had already arrived at the Li family. Li Zhihu turned around and carried He Xiu into the hall. Li Dunzi and Madame Du's faces were filled with joy, but they were a little anxious. Why wasn't Shao Qingyuan here yet? Not only them, but even Madame Wan and the others were very strange. They all went to Chen Liang's side and asked, "Village chief, didn't Yundong say that they would come today? It's already the wedding ceremony. Why haven't they appeared yet?" Chen Liang was also confused. He thought for a moment and said, "Were they delayed by something? Did they not make it back in time?" "It's possible. Fortunately, I didn't say that they would return to Yongfu village today. Otherwise, people would think that I was lying to them. Why don't I go to their house and see if they've come back?" Just as they were talking, Chen Liang looked up and saw his son enter. Chen Jinbao walked straight to their table and sat down. He took a glass of water and drank it himself. Chen Liang then asked, "Are Yundong and Qingyuan back?" "Yes." The person beside him was surprised. "They really went back? Then why didn't they come over?" "What are you saying? Don't you think about how famous Shao Qingyuan is now? If he comes at this time, will the new couple still hold the wedding? No matter what, he has to wait for the wedding to end before coming. Otherwise, if this wedding can't be held, won't the Li family blame them?" These words made sense. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1039. Qingyuan, you're back. Everyone felt relieved and continued eating happily. When the sound of the bridal chamber was heard from the central room, there was finally a trace of movement outside the door. Chen, Liang and the others looked up and saw a man and a woman at the door. Everyone who was eating in the courtyard was suddenly stunned. A moment later, someone suddenly shouted, "Wolf cub." No, Qingyuan, you're back?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present stood up and rushed towards him. However, Qingyuan's face was still as cold as before, and his entire body exuded an aura of no strangers. In the end, everyone stopped 2 steps away from him. However, everyone looked at him with exceptionally fervent and excited expressions. Their gazes were exceptionally burning. "Qingyuan, we've all heard that you're the doctor who invented the cowpox vaccination method." Yes. "I heard that you went to the capital and entered the royal palace to see the emperor, right? What does his majesty look like? Is he so mighty that no one dares to look up?" "Qingyuan, I didn't expect you to have such ability. You even know how to treat illnesses and save people. You're much better than the doctors from the county. Why didn't you say anything? None of us knew that you actually know medicine." "Qingyuan, why are you back at this time? Didn't you say that you would stay in the prefectural city for 3 months? Did you come back to inoculate us?" "Yes. We were all waiting for you to come back. Everyone was especially excited when they heard about you." The villagers were very enthusiastic. These people, who had originally been cold and distant to Qingyuan, now looked at him as if he was a treasure. If not for the fact that they were still a little afraid of Qingyuan, they would have reached out to touch him and see if they could get some luck. Yundong's lips twitched as she watched from the side. In the past, this treatment belonged to her. These people liked the new and hated the old too quickly, right? Qingyuan, who was standing beside her, couldn't help but reach out and squeeze her. Then, he looked at the people in front of him and said, "Can we go in now?" Yes. The person in front of him hurriedly stepped back and welcomed him in. Qingyuan took a few steps and Liang finally arrived in front of him. "I thought you wouldn't come back." "We agreed," Qingyuan said as he followed Liang's actions and sat at their table. Everyone found it strange. Are they also here to attend the Li family's marriage? No way. Isn't Qingyuan at odds with the Li family? Why is he here? He doesn't get along with first brother Li's family, but he shouldn't have much of a grudge against second brother Li, right? However, there was no need for them to get along well, right? Qingyuan had suffered so much when he was young, but Li Dunzi and his wife had never helped him. It was said that they were very dissatisfied with old Li doting on Qingyuan. Everyone was guessing. Li Dunzi and Madame Du, who had heard the commotion, had already run over quickly and rushed in front of Qingyuan. However, when they really stood in front of them, they felt a little uneasy. "Qingyuan, Yundong, you're here?" Previously, they were also afraid of Qingyuan and his wife, but in order to make their family situation better, they mustered their courage and threw out bait to invite them over. However, they did not expect to hear some time ago that the cowpox vaccination method was created by Qingyuan. How could that be? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1040, Giving Qingyuan the Handkerchief. Qingyuan had seen the emperor before. He was very different from before. He was someone who had made great contributions and could crush them with a casual move. Not to mention that they only had a handkerchief that was originally his. Even if they had gold and silver, they would have to obediently hand it over if Qingyuan wanted it. Therefore, at this moment, Li Dunzi and Madame Du's bodies were trembling slightly, and they were extremely afraid. Unexpectedly, Yundong raised her hand and handed her a bag of pastries. "Congratulations." Madame Du was stunned and in disbelief. It was only when Liang pushed her that she suddenly reacted and hurriedly took it with both hands. Her smile was exceptionally bright. Look at how polite you are. You even gave me such a big gift. Quick, please come in. The banquet has already started outside. There's still an empty table in the room. Go and sit there." She was happy. There was a red packet on the pastry. There must be money inside. Unexpectedly, not only did Yundong not force them to hand over the handkerchief, she even gave them so much face in front of everyone. Li Dunzi and his wife heaved a sigh of relief. In the future, they would not be in a dilemma in this village. Gu Yundong smiled and walked in with Shao Qingyuan. She was speechless when she saw the expressions of Li Dunzi and his wife. They were not the kind of unreasonable bandits who would snatch and plunder. The second branch of the Li family did not have much of a grudge with them. The second branch had a handkerchief in their hands, and they needed this handkerchief. They would give a red packet in front of everyone and treat it as buying the handkerchief from them. Everyone would just take what they needed. The two of them entered the central room. The people outside wanted to follow them, but they were stopped by Liang. All right. Today is the Li family's big day. Let's talk after the banquet is over. Madame Wan and the others also said, That's right. If you don't want to eat, Qingyuan and Yundong still want to eat. When everyone heard this, they could only suppress the excitement in their hearts and silently return to their seats. However, the buzzing discussion never stopped, and their gaze was fixed on the central room. Unexpectedly, not long after, Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong stood up and followed Madame Du into the room. Where are they going? To see the bride? That didn't make sense. Wasn't the bride in the other room? Shao Qingyuan was really not interested in the wedding banquet. He was here for the handkerchief. After taking 2 sips of wine, the two of them followed Madame Du to the main room. As soon as they entered, Madame Du closed the door and locked it. Then he took out a key and opened a coat box in the corner. He lay inside and took out a small box. Then he used another key to open the box. She had hidden it very well. Not only were there 2 locks, but there was also a compartment in the last box. The handkerchief was taken from that compartment. Gu Yundong guessed that the compartment should have been used to hide money, but there wasn't any money now. Madame Du heaved a sigh of relief and handed the handkerchief to Shao Qingyuan. She said, This is the handkerchief you wore back then. This material should be good. I'd never seen it before, nor did I know it. You're knowledgeable. You might be able to find your family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1041. Shao as in Shao Qingyuan took it and touched it. It was indeed a comfortable material, even better than what they were wearing. He handed the handkerchief to Gu Yundong. Gu Yundong had helped Shensidians sell embroidery in the cloth shop in the prefectural city a few times and had seen a lot of materials, but this, she had never seen it before. Could it be that this material didn't even exist in the prefectural city? Gu Yundong flipped her hand and found a word embroidered on the corner of the handkerchief, Shao. Shao as in Shao Qingyuan. She frowned slightly. Gu Yundong remembered that the deceased wife of the Tao family was surnamed Shao. As expected, did this handkerchief belong to the Tao family? Gu Yundong was a little disappointed, but she still carefully put away the handkerchief. When Madame Du saw this, she couldn't help but say a few more words. When you were carried back, the clothes you were wearing were very exquisite. One look and you could tell that you were a child from a rich family. Your complexion is also good. Your original family shouldn't have to worry about food and clothes. Gu Yundong thought for a moment and asked, Then did Brother Shao have anything else on him? Was he dressed neatly at that time? If Old Li had changed Shao Qingyuan and third young Master Tao's clothes in a hurry, their clothes might have been a little messy. It had happened too long ago. Madame Du frowned and thought for a moment before continuing, It's not very messy, but you should know that my father-in-law came back in a hurry with a child. He definitely wasn't too neat. As for whether there's anything else on him, it should be gone. Gu Yundong sighed inwardly. It seemed that there were not many clues. All right, we understand. Thank you for giving us the handkerchief. It's getting late, so we'll go back first. Madame Du opened her mouth, wanting to let them stay a little longer. However, she knew that this was unrealistic, so she nodded. They'll send you out. She opened the door again. There was a table outside. Because Li Dunzi was sitting there, no one dared to eavesdrop openly. However, the people present still pricked up their ears, trying their best to hear what they had said inside. Unfortunately, their voice was so soft that there was no sound at all. Gu Yundong looked around but did not see eldest Li and his family. It made sense. Ever since the last time they caused a scene, the second and third branches of the Li family felt that the first branch was too vicious and had cut ties. Besides, Li Dunzi had invited Shao Qingyuan over this time. Why would he let the people from the main branch cause trouble for him? Gu Yundong shook her head and walked out of the central room. Chen Liang walked over and asked, "You're going back now?" "Yes, it's getting late. I have to go back and prepare." "Prepare?" Chen Liang immediately reacted and his eyes lit up. "Is the vaccination starting tomorrow?" "Yes." Shao Qingyuan nodded. "Uncle Chen, you should let everyone know, but this place, yes, yes, yes. The village has already tidied up the ancestral hall. When the time comes, we'll inoculate everyone in the ancestral hall. Our ancestors will bless us." Shao Qingyuan was relieved to hear that. He told Xin Liang about other matters before leaving the Li family with Gu Yundong. As soon as he left, the people who were eating stood up and wanted to follow him out. "Why did you leave just like that?" "I wanted to ask about the vaccination." "Did he come back just to attend the wedding banquet? Doesn't it mean we really have to wait 3 months?" Seeing that someone was about to leave, Chen Liang hurriedly coughed and said, "Everyone, quieten down. I have something to say." Everyone could not help but turn to look at him. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1042, She's the only one unhappy, Chen Liang said. Qingyuan said that our Yongfu village will start the vaccination tomorrow. The venue is over at the ancestral hall. Everyone can queue up tomorrow morning. Everyone was overjoyed when they heard that. "What time is it? Will they really inoculate us?" Chen Liang nodded. "Tomorrow at 5 o'clock. After a pause, he continued, "I know that everyone has children and relatives in other villages. They also want to be vaccinated early. However, there's a limit to manpower. They have to keep a close eye on our village first, so don't tell the people from other villages to come over for the time being. Even if they come, they definitely won't be able to be registered." Everyone was a little disappointed when they heard that, but on second thought it made sense. There were still hundreds of people in their village, and Shao Qingyuan had to return to the prefectural city. If people from other villages or even county towns came, the local villagers would have to queue at the back. Chen Liang continued, "There's one more thing I have to make clear to everyone. Qingyuan is alone. He can't inoculate everyone. Therefore, Dr. Xiong and the others are going to do it. They were all personally taught by Qingyuan." Someone was immediately dissatisfied. "Why can't he do it himself? If something happens to us..." Chen Liang suddenly looked at that person and his voice turned cold. "Then tell me, who is he going to inoculate?" "We've already been inoculated. Won't the others have to let him come? Can he handle it alone?" Even in the prefectural city, he let those doctors inoculate the commoners. Why is it that when he comes to our Yongfu village, he has to work hard? This inoculation doesn't cost a single cent. If you're unwilling, go to the county city and queue up. You're pushing your luck." The person immediately shrunk his neck and did not dare to make a sound. The others naturally did not dare to say anything else. On second thought, Chen Liang was right. In the past, Shao Qingyuan would have ignored them. Not only did he come back personally, but he also stayed in Yongfu village for a few more days. With him around, they felt much more at ease. Seeing that there was no dissent, Chen Liang heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. "After you're done with the wedding banquet, tell the neighbors who didn't come to eat next door to come to the ancestral hall tomorrow morning. Do you hear me?" "Got it, village chief." After receiving the accurate news, everyone was relieved and finally began to enjoy the wine, meat, and dishes in peace. The only unhappy one was probably He Xiu, the bride who had finished listening to the entire process in the new room. Were these two crazy? They came to show off on their wedding day. Now, as soon as they left, these people went back to rest early after the wedding banquet. They didn't even make a fuss in the bridal chamber. Her marriage was not lively at all. However, she was the only one who was dissatisfied with the Li family's second branch. The others felt that it was quite good. Thinking that they were going to be vaccinated tomorrow, they all rested early. Therefore, early the next morning, when Xiao was about to get up and serve tea to her in-laws, there was no one at home. Everyone had run to the ancestral hall early to wait. The sky had just lit up, but the entrance of the ancestral hall was already filled with people. Yundong and Qingyuan were not in a hurry. Although they woke up early, they sat in the reception hall and finished their breakfast. Then, they went to Yunxi's room to see him and Xuanhe. They had gone to the Li family late yesterday. Firstly, they really wanted to wait for the Li family to finish paying their respects. Secondly, they wanted to inoculate Yunxu and Yuanji first. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1043. Untrusted Ah Zhu. Yundong had already applied for leave for Yunxu and the rest. They might not be able to go to school for the next few days. However, Qin Wenjing was not in the school now. There were a few students in the school who had already lined up at the county office. After the vaccination, they rested at home. Therefore, even if Yunxu and the others went to school, most of the students were only learning on their own. The two little guys were still asleep and seemed to be in good condition. Yundong was slightly relieved and quietly left the room. Then, the two of them walked towards the ancestral hall. Chen Liang had already opened the door to the ancestral hall. The first to enter were Ah Zhu, Dr. Xiong, and the old doctor from the county medicine shop. The three of them were the ones who would inoculate the locals of Yongfu village. As soon as they entered, the villagers began to line up under Chen Liang's arrangements. However, these people were in dispute as to whose side they should be on. Most of them wanted to line up with Dr. Xiong. After all, Ah Zhu was just a servant in their eyes. He was also young, so how could he know about vaccination? Although the old doctor had already vaccinated a lot of people in the county city, he could not compare to Dr. Xiong, who had come from the prefectural city. However, Dr. Xiong had a bad temper. When he saw the long line in front of him, he immediately slammed the table and glared. "Why are you all lined up here? Are you trying to tire me out?" The people at the back of the line trembled. Their gazes were a little erratic and afraid. Some people quietly moved to the old doctor's side. Unexpectedly, when they looked up, the Zeng family, Chen Liang's family, and the He family at the front were lined up on Ah Zhu's side. The Zeng and Chen families had a good relationship with Yundong and Qingyuan. The He family was also a shrewd family. When Yundong was building the road previously, they had changed their home base at the foot of the mountain with the village. Their three families actually went to Ah Zhu's side. Could it be that he was the one with the best skills among the three of them? Everyone was bewildered. Some people could not help but go over. However, some people were still determined to stand on Dr. Xiong's side. However, this way, the number of people in the team in front of the three of them was about right. Tong Ping had also come over to help early in the morning. He had sent everyone a note with words written on it. "There are too many people. It's difficult to wait here. Everyone, take this note. You can come back when your name is called. There's no need to wait here. It's fine to go out for a walk and come back later." Everyone held the note in their hands, but no one moved. Although he said that, what if they missed it? Besides, it was just waiting. It was not like they had not waited before. It did not matter. Therefore, even though the queue had already reached the outside of the ancestral hall, no one moved. At most, they would sit on the ground when they were tired of standing. As for food, there were also people at home who had survived smallpox when they were young. They did not need to be vaccinated, so they could help take care of it. Shao Qingyuan and Yundong were the last to arrive. When they entered, they saw such a lively scene. When the villagers saw him, they immediately stood up and greeted, "Qing, you're here. Hurry up and go in. It's already started inside." Shao Qingyuan nodded and led Yundong into the ancestral hall. The moment the people inside saw him, their hearts instantly calmed down. Yundong whispered, "See that? Your role is to calm everyone down." Shao Qingyuan asked, "When are we leaving? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1044. Ah Zhu and the others changed their names. Yundong looked up at the sky and replied, "About an hour." The news that they had returned to Yongfu village and were vaccinating the villagers today had probably spread. It was fine if the people from the neighboring village found out. With Chen Liang around, no one would make a fuss and insist that Shao Qingyuan vaccinate them. However, that might not be the case for the people in the county. There were many powerful people. They had probably sent people to find out the news of Yongfu village at any time. Shao Qingyuan had appeared in the Li family yesterday and announced the news a little late. Even if the servants sent to find out the news wanted to return to the city to report, the city gate would be closed. They could only wait for the city gate to open this morning before informing their masters. Therefore, even if the people from the county wanted to come to Yongfu village, it would probably take at least an hour. Therefore, Shao Qingyuan and the others were still in the mood to watch Ah Zhu and the others receive the vaccination. Ah Zhu was indeed skilled and was inoculating the He family. Xianxia stood beside his wife. When he saw Ah Zhu holding the dagger, he was immediately a little nervous. "Dr. Ah Zhu, my wife is afraid of pain." Later, "Ah Zhu, Dr. Ah Zhu?" He raised his head with a serious expression and said proudly, "My name is Shao Quan now. You can call me Dr. Shao." Xianxia nodded repeatedly. "All right, Dr. Shao." Ah Zhu was instantly delighted. He was Dr. Shao. How nice was that? Someone beside him asked curiously, "Why are you called Shao Quan?" "Not only am I called Shao Quan, but we've all changed our names. The four of us will be Wen, Wu, Shuang and Quanwen, fully capable of literal and martial arts. Remember, don't call me the wrong name next time." Yundong silently covered her face. "Look at how smug you are." The four of them had come up with the names themselves. A few days ago, after Shao Qingyuan and Ah Mao came out of the Million Gold Pavilion, the first thing Ah Go and the others did was talk about changing their names. They originally wanted to call themselves Zhong, Shao, Ren and Yiwan, but Dai Zhong, Dai Yi and the rest of Dai Wenhuo's subordinates had got those names. Therefore, after a few days of careful deliberation and racking his brains, he finally thought of the words Wen Wu Shuang Quan. They felt that these words were especially good, especially impressive, and suited Shao Qingyuan's image. Yundong was speechless for a long time. "All right, as long as you're happy." However, Yundong and the others were already used to calling Ah Zhu, so they could not change it for a while. Ah Zhu patiently reminded them, as if he liked this new name very much. When the people beside them heard that Ah Zhu and the others had changed their names, they said regretfully, "Why did you change your names? Ah Zhu and Ah Shu are so nice to listen to. They're easy to remember and have special characteristics. We country bumpkins like to take cheap names. It's easy to raise them." Ah Zhu, "No, I want to be called Shao Quan, Shao Quan." "Remember." Yundong and Shao Qingyuan looked at each other and laughed. The cowpox vaccination went very smoothly. After it was done, Shao Qingyuan told them some things to take note of and asked them to go back and rest. After saying it a few more times, everyone remembered it. Fortunately, it was not time for farming yet. 2 days of rest could still be spared. An hour later, someone ran over in a hurry and said loudly, "Oh no, there are a few carriages at the entrance of our village. They seem to be from the county. Are they here to look for Shao Qingyuan and take him away? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1045. Go hide. The villagers in the ancestral hall were shocked. "They're really here? Why are they here so quickly?" Someone reacted quickly and said to Shao Qingyuan, "Qingyuan, quickly hide." Yes. Go and hide. If they come and can't find you, they will definitely go back. Well, say that you've already left and returned to the prefectural city." Everyone was talking at once and coming up with ideas. They were worried that Shao Qingyuan would be taken away by those powerful people from the county. Without this man supervising the situation, they could not help but panic. Shao Qingyuan and Yundong looked at each other. It was as they had expected it. Chen Liang also came over to persuade them. "Stay away for now. Don't worry, they're here for you. If they can't see you, they can't do anything." "All right, I'll leave this to Uncle Chen." Shao Qingyuan nodded at Ah Zhu and left the ancestral hall with Yundong. The people from the county city came from the main road in carriages, but Shao Qingyuan and the others left through the center of the village. When they arrived at the entrance of the village, they saw Father Tong waiting there with the carriage. As soon as the two of them got into the carriage, they bypassed the main road and took a small path to the county city. Not long after they left, those carriages stopped at the foot of the mountain. When they heard that everyone in the village was at the ancestral hall, they quickly walked towards it. However, when they all arrived, they only saw a few doctors inoculating the villagers. Shao Qingyuan was not around at all. Not only was he not around, but someone also ran over and said that they had just left from another path. Everyone cursed in unison and looked at the people from Yongfu village. After leaving a few people to continue keeping an eye on the situation, they left angrily. The villagers were speechless. They were all prepared to argue and chase them away with hoes and shovels. In the end, they left? There was no sense of accomplishment. Why didn't they persevere? Wasn't there any sincerity? However, after they left, Chen Liang heaved a sigh of relief and continued to organize everyone for the vaccination. The Li family's eldest branch came at this time. Ever since they found out that Shao Qingyuan had seen the emperor and made a great contribution, they had been extremely nervous. They wanted to go to the county city to queue for registration, but they were late. The county office's document said that they would have to wait at least until 6 months later. 6 months later? How could that be? Therefore, even though they were extremely afraid, it was rare for the village to start cowpox vaccination. They had been holed up at home for half a day. When they heard that Shao Qingyuan had left, they finally braced themselves and came out. They looked at the villagers in front of them who were being vaccinated. There were a total of 3 teams. They definitely did not dare to line up with Ah Zhu's team. If he did anything during the vaccination, their family might lose their lives. Dr. Xiong had a bad temper, so it wouldn't do either. Therefore, in the end, the Li family's eldest branch was lined up with the old doctor. The villager in front of them immediately frowned. This person happened to be at odds with the Li family's eldest branch. He immediately mocked, "You still have the cheek to come. Do you think no one knows that you've persecuted him in the past when Qingyuan isn't around? None of your business. Hey, you want to fight?" Seeing that the two of them were about to fight, Chen Liang heard the commotion and rushed over. When he saw the Li family, he could not help but frown. Disgust flashed across his face. "All right, stop arguing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1046. This troublesome thing. Chen Liang did not chase them away. He was the village chief and the entire village had to be vaccinated. It was impossible for him to leave them behind. Besides, it wouldn't be good for Shao Qingyuan if word got out. What if someone in the Li family got smallpox? What would outsiders think of Shao Qingyuan? They would say that he was the one who invented the cowpox vaccination method, but in the end, someone in his village died from this illness? It was just vaccination. There was nothing to do with it. If you want the vaccination, be quiet. If anything happens, you'll be the ones to suffer. The people from the Li family's main branch immediately did not dare to speak. They could only line up resentfully and endure the pointing fingers of the other villagers. The subsequent inoculations went very smoothly. Even though the people from the neighboring village came after hearing the news, they knew that it was impossible for them to cut in line. They could only be envious. At that moment, Yundong and Shao Qingyuan had already arrived at Fengkai County. As soon as the two of them arrived at the county city, they went straight to the Lu residence. Luan was already waiting at the entrance. When he saw them, he immediately welcomed them. "Young Master Shao, Miss Gu, you're finally here. Our young master has been waiting for you at the door." With that, he welcomed the two of them inside. As soon as they turned around the courtyard, Lu Wei, who had heard the commotion, ran over and suddenly stopped in front of them. Then, with a bright smile on his face, he reached out and patted Shao Qingyuan's shoulder. "Brother, you're very promising now. I'm proud to have a brother like you. I'm especially proud. I'm extremely proud." As he spoke, he patted Shao Qingyuan's shoulder hard. However, it didn't look like he was proud. Instead, it looked like he wanted to slap Shao Qingyuan into the ground. Shao Qingyuan frowned and tilted his body slightly to avoid the third slap. Lu Wei could not stop in time and fell straight forward. Fortunately, Lu An reacted very quickly. "Young master, be careful." He barely caught her. After Lu Wei steadied himself, he turned around and was about to be displeased when he met Gu Yundong's angry eyes. "Do you have a deep hatred for my brother Shao? You're so strong that you're about to slap a piece of flesh off my shoulder." Lu Wei immediately shrunk his neck guiltily, but he still refuted firmly, "Nonsense, I'm expressing my admiration for brother Shao. It's unstoppable. Besides, I'm afraid that my brother Shao won't believe such an important matter. That's why I patted him awake and told him that this isn't a dream. This is real. It's worth being happy and excited. Don't try to sow discord between me and brother Shao." Gu Yundong was speechless. "If you had kept that jealous, resentful expression on your face when you said this, it might have been more convincing. Actor Lu, your acting skills have deteriorated." As he spoke, Old Master Lu also walked out with a smile. "Young Shao Gu girl, you're here? This time, you've caused quite a commotion. Not bad, not bad. I knew that you would definitely have a great future. Unlike our family's wastrel, who only knows how to eat, drink, and have fun. It's fine if he can't inherit the business, but he just has to be disobedient. What a troublesome thing." Gu Yundong glanced at Lu Wei. She finally understood why Lu Wei was so resentful towards brother Shao. "Old Master Lu, if you want to educate your son, then educate your son. Don't compare him to someone else." As expected, as soon as Old Master Lu finished speaking, Lu Wei walked forward angrily. Old Master Lu snorted. "You still have the cheek to lose your temper. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible.